To the June 10th, 2021 School Board meeting of the Pleasanton Unified School District. Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Phew. All right. Tonight, we have quite a lengthy agenda, but just a couple of introductions. For those of you just joining us tonight, to my right is Dr. David Haglund, who is the Superintendent of Schools here in Pleasanton. I'm Joan Larson. I'm serving this year as the School Board President. To my left is Mark Miller, who is serving as the Vice President of the Board. Then we have Trustee Steve Maher, Trustee Kelly McCaughey, Trustee Mary Jo Carrion. And perhaps for very soon to be ending of this time, our cabinet is down in the room here in the boardroom. We have Dr. Janelle Woodward, who's the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. We have Mr. Ed DeLazzo, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services. Mr. Julio Hernandez, who's the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Ahmad Sheikh Al-Islami, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. And Patrick Gannon, who is the Coordinator of Community Engagement and Communication. Did I get it this time? Yeah, okay. Close enough, okay. So, we are joining you again this evening, still on Zoom for the public, as the governor's orders are still in place. So the public comment this evening will be over Zoom, and you, I think, are all pretty used to that by now. We do have some action out of closed session, but before I do that, we weren't expecting to have a student board member this evening, but do we have Sachi Bayani here with us this evening?
Yes, I am here.
Wonderful. Welcome, Sachi. She is our Foothill High School student board member, and she will be speaking with us about one of the agenda items tonight. So, welcome. So, out of closed session, I have a little, only good news tonight. So 2.1.1, we have the public employee appointment of the principal of Valley View Elementary School this evening, and I would like to announce that the board unanimously voted to appoint Gerardo Guzman Rico as the principal of Valley View Elementary. Are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm here.
Welcome.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. So I'd like to thank the Board of Education first and foremost, and Dr. Haglund, the cabinet members, Human Resources, and the Valley View community. So I'm excited to begin this new adventure in my life and at Valley View. So I look forward to forge relationships with all stakeholders. And again, I am really excited, and thank you again for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
Welcome. We're delighted. And additionally, tonight, we have 2.1.2, which is the public employee appointment of the principal of Harvest Park Middle School, and the board unanimously voted to appoint Russell Campisi as the new principal of Harvest Park Middle School. Mr. Campisi, are you with us?
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies and gentlemen of the board, superintendent. Again, my name is Russell Campisi, and I'm so honored and excited to be the new principal at Harvest Park Middle School. I look forward to collaborating with all of you in this amazing community, and I will work to ensure that our students are safe and joyful when they come to school. So thank you so much, and if there are family members in the Zoom audience, hello, and thank you too.
Wonderful, wonderful. Those are great comments by both of our new principals, and as we embark on a new school year with some new folks and some new energy and some renewed hope for the future, it's really wonderful to have you join our team. And then I'm pleased to announce to the public that this evening in closed session, the board performed the public employee evaluation of our superintendent for this year. And I have been serving on this board for over 10 years. And this, I can say, was one of the most challenging years we have ever experienced. And yet, the superintendent led us through it with grace, compassion, love, and just caring for our community, caring for our students, caring for our staff. We really just could not be happier with his relationship with our community, with his relationship with this board, with the team he has built, and the work that they have done and they have accomplished this year. It's just exemplary. From my viewpoint of being familiar with some of the other districts in our county, they all have strengths and weaknesses, and they're doing a lot of great things, but they're not doing as many great things as we're doing. And we have so much to thank you for, David. It's just really a pleasure to be a thought partner with you and to watch you lead this district and help our students grow and improve the way we do things, and just lead us, forward. And so thank you. And I think my fellow trustees have some things they'd like to say. Oh, you don't have a mic? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, David, as I said in my evaluation, had this district just kept things going during the pandemic, it would have been, to me, exceeding expectations. But we actually moved the needle, and that's a large part because of you, but also because of the folks sitting in front of us here, the great leadership team you've put together, very strong leadership team, a high-performing team, as our previous trustee would have said, as well as the principals, the teachers, the staff. I mean, the whole team, the PUSD team, really rose to the occasion. And, you get blamed for a lot of stuff when it doesn't work out right, which is not very often, and you also should get the praise for, at least partially, get the praise for when things do go well, and they really did. And so, I guess I'm just excited that we are at this point. Like you said, Joan, is that we've come through this, we had a really strong year, and now, hopefully we're going into another year, a new year, without the without the headwinds, I guess, or the anchor of the COVID pandemic. And it'll be so exciting to see what this team, which is stronger than it was when it started by far. I mean, coming through challenging times like this only builds character and strength and ability. So, again, I echo Joan's thanks to you, to all of you, to all the PSD community, because, we're okay. We did okay. And we did better than okay. So, thank you.
David, I want to thank you because I believe you judge a person by how they maneuver or how they function when things do not always go your way, our district's way. And you were able to fight through that, still provide a program, an excellent program. You led a great team that you have that I see before me. And I'm forever grateful that you were here when we had to go through this pandemic. I don't want to guess what it might have been if we'd had some other people that I know. So thank you.
So when I think about the leadership that you have provided to our district, once again, I will say it again, what comes to mind is resilience. Being able to pick up again when faced with, as we know, unprecedented challenges. And your unwavering optimism, the confidence that you provided for that leadership gave a sense of comfort when there was utter chaos surrounded all around us with unknowns. And you held steady regardless of what obstacles came our way. And so it's very contagious. It trickles down from, I know you said, couldn't do it alone, bringing a board with a collaborative team, the cabinet, the teachers, but all the way going down into, with our students. That guidance that you have provided makes it, I'd like to remind everyone that once again, who which district was first in Alameda for reopening? Once again, it was Pleasanton, and that couldn't have happened without your guidance and support and direction. And so I really applaud your efforts and commend you. And that glue is essential to our school community, and that accessibility of communication, being available for anyone who knocked on your door or sent an email. Thank you.
So David, I really want to thank you for your leadership and for your smart decision-making. I mean, one example was, as a teacher, we had 1 week, and thank you, Teaching and Learning, for this too, that it was outstanding, all of the opportunities we had for growth. You know, I'd never used a Google Classroom before, but I had so much in-service, and that training was amazing. So I want to thank you for your relationships with people. I appreciate that you listened. The amount of town halls that you had this year was amazing. So thank you for your leadership in a very difficult time.
Well, thank you for all that positive comments, the positivity that represents, and the hope that it represents for our moving forward. I've said many, many times before, in fact, 2 years ago, we kind of coined the phrase Team PUSD with the us in the middle capitalized. I don't think we understood when we did that exactly how important that symbol was going to be for us over the course of the next 2 years. And I don't receive positive feedback very effectively, so I apologize for that. But I will say this: I couldn't have done any of it without an effective governance team to work with and without my executive leadership team. We have the best executive leadership team, not just in the county, but in the state of California. And I think we've demonstrated that this year. I mean, all of the praise about our decision-making, it's the brain trust that's sitting in this room that made sure that I didn't go off the edge. And I think we all probably kept each other from going over the edge at different points during the last year and a half or so. So thank you again for positive comments and a positive evaluation. You know, those processes are always kind of nerve-wracking. But, you know, it really is a pleasure to be a part of this team, but more importantly, probably a part of the community, which includes our parents, our students, our classified team members who, if they had not stepped up the way they stepped up this year, we would not have been able to do the many things that we're able to do first. And our teachers, too. I mean, Mary Jo, you talked about that 1 week that helped you kind of get anchored and centered. And that represented that one transition, and then the even larger transition that occurred just before starting the school in the fall. And Dr. Woodward and her team working with the instructional specialists and so many other people in the district who stood up and said, I'll help. And so, you know, thank you again, but it really is about the us in PUSD.
Sachi, I realized you weren't aware that we were going to be doing this, but is there anything you would like to add as a student board member?
Yeah, sure. So as a student, I don't really have a lot of experience at the board. Generally, for me, before I had this position, the board was like this big, scary thing, you know, that just seemed so disconnected from the student body. But getting this position, working with Dr. Haglund has been so inspiring to help me realize that PUSD is there for the students. And Dr. Haglund has been so amazing to work with, especially through the process of the student board vote. He's been so positive with that, and he's always great to give valuable feedback. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to just, drop the mic and walk away, but we do have an agenda to go through tonight, but we have some really exciting things to talk about, not least of which is our LCAP. So we will be resilient, and we will just keep on going. So does anyone have anything to change on the agenda tonight, or can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Trustee Carrion? Makashi?
Aye.
Maher? What's your name? Miller? Aye. And Larson. All right, the agenda is approved, and we will move on to item number 6.1 is recognition of the classified employee of the year and the nominees. Dr. Hagler.
Very good. For the first of our recognitions tonight, I want to hand it over to Mr. Julio Hernandez.
Good evening, President Larson, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Hagler, and Cabinet Community. Our classified employees have been essential this past year in delivering services to our students, staff, and community. Each year we have the privilege to honor a classified employee who exemplifies the outstanding dedication and service to our PUSD classified team members. To recognize our 2021 Classified School Employee of the Year, I'll hand it over to Mr. Ahmad Shiko Salami.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I'm going to have a few words, and then I'm also going to invite Tom Gray to say a few words as well. It's my privilege to congratulate Kay Dorp, our account specialist too, and the budget analyst as PUSD's 2021 Classified Employee of the Year. Kay has served PUSD for nearly 20 years in the fiscal services team, helping to ensure that our budgets are balanced by providing a high level of customer service to both the district, office staff, and school sites. She embodies our division's mission of functioning as a well-organized, service-oriented team, and truly embodies that motto that we have developed, how can we help? She's always there to answer the phone and help each and every one of our staff members. She is lauded by her colleagues for her efficiency, dedication, and great attitude. And when I get in the morning, I always see Kay, and she has that smile, and she loves to come to work. Her love to come to work and to be with her colleagues is probably what drives her the most. So on behalf of PUSD and our broader community, congratulations, Kay, as our 2021 Classified Employee of the Year. So I know, Tom, you wanted to say a few words, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I am extremely happy that Kay is being recognized as Classified Employee of the Year. For the past 20 years, Kay has worked in the Fiscal Services Department, where she's a key member of the fiscal team. Her knowledge of school finance has been beneficial to the district divisions and school sites. She's a valuable guide to the school sites and various departments in respect to school business roles. She has helped me train new staff. This past year, she has given additional support to the adult ed team. Also, this past year, she was instrumental in onboarding new staff in the special education department. Kay has been my right hand and has helped me personally in many ways here in the district. Furthermore, Kay does not only does what's best for the district, but she does what's best for the students in our district. So join me in congratulating Kay as Classified Employee of the Year.
Thank you for your kind words, Tom and Ahmad. I really appreciate it. You know, I have been here a long time, so I've seen a lot of changes and a lot of new people. You know, as a quote bean counter, our jobs aren't real exciting or real interesting to the outside world, but the best part of my job is dealing with all the people. Especially, I love dealing with the school sites and the department secretaries and whatever. And I have had to train a lot of people. We've had a lot of changes, but through the years, fiscal's always had a strong department, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And I really appreciate everybody who said such kind things about me. I was very surprised to get the award, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kay. That's awesome to have somebody who served so long, and especially in fiscal, where, you know, they're generally behind the scenes, and it's really nice to be able to bring somebody forward and shine a little spotlight on that. Was there anything else on this particular item? Were you going to, the nominees, was there just conversation about the nominees as well? Okay, sorry, it's on the agenda. Thank you so much, Kay. And then 6.2, we have a recognition of the PTA Volunteers Hub.
For this and the next recognition, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Woodward.
Thank you so much. I am so pleased to recognize all of the PTA members that have assisted with our volunteer hub for this past year. These fantastic volunteers tutored our students, and they tutored at all grade levels, and we are incredibly thankful not only for the tutoring that they did, but also for their commitment to continuing with many of the students over the summer.
So I believe we have, Patrick, do we have Beth and Donaldin with us tonight? So this was an effort that was led by the PTA Council, so I want to specifically thank Donaldin Harris and the individual who led the effort, Beth McCarthy, and we'll make sure to reach out and give them our thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Again, another example of the community coming together to solve problems on behalf of our students, and we're really grateful for your efforts. 6.3, recognition of local control advisory committee members.
Thank you, and good evening, President Larson, Trustee, Superintendent Hagelin, Cabinet, and members of our Pleasanton community. It is my pleasure this evening to recognize the members of our Local Control Advisory Committee, we call them LCAC, that advise administration, the board, and the superintendent regarding the implementation of the Local Control and Accountability Plan. LCAC members are required to attend all meetings of the full committee on the third Tuesday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m. and include parents and guardians of current students, community members, Pleasanton Unified staff members, and representatives of the California School Employee Association and Association of Pleasanton Teachers. I'm going to introduce Dr. Pam Vandekamp, the Director of Assessment and Accountability, who will recognize each of these wonderful participants on the LCAC. Dr. Vandekamp?
Thank you, Dr. Woodward. I appreciate the opportunity to recognize these hardworking members of our community, and thank you to the Board of Trustees for all of your support in this process. As Dr. Woodward said, this is a group that works very hard all year long to review and develop our recommendations for our local control accountability plan. This year they had additional duties because we worked together on our learning continuity plan, and so we started our meetings in August. They receive updates on things that are happening in our school community, and they also are able to weigh in on other grants that we're receiving. For example, the Learning Opportunity Grant, the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant that we recently received. So at this time, I just would like to recognize them by name. As you may know, they are parents in our community and guardians. They are also community members, and this year we were very lucky to have a student member who will participate in the presentation of our local control accountability plan later this evening. So I'm just going to read the names and their role and the school site that they are associated with. So first of all, I'd like to recognize Debbie Bayani, who is a parent at Donlin and Hart, Lilia Beltran, who is a past parent, and Christiane Gillis, who is a parent at Amador. And these are our members who will be leaving us this year, and we appreciate their 2 years of service. Continuing into next year will be Roseanne Hoffman, one of our community members, Barsha Clare, another community member, Alma Avalos, who is a parent at Foothill, Analia O'Neill, another parent at Leidixon and Hart, Ms. Samantha Kading, who is a parent at Hearst and Pleasanton Middle School, and Pat Shackelford, a parent at Leidixon and Foothill. Our student member this year is Devansh Pandy, who is a student at Foothill, and he's here with us tonight. And then in addition, we have several members of our staff who, as Dr. Woodward said, represent the Association of Pleasanton Teachers. So that is Jenna Hewitt-King and Cheryl Atkins and Michelle Verkylen. And in addition, Cheryl Van Gundy is our representative from the California School Employees Association. And so I want to thank them again for their hard work and dedication to serving the community, and they truly embody all of the important goals of our local control accountability plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just, if I forget, if there's another member, I apologize in advance, but I did want mention, Varsha, I believe, has been on serving on our LCAC since the inception of the committee, which I believe the law changed in 2012, 2013, and I think 2014 was the first year of the LCAC. But so just a long time serving committee member. So thank you all very much for working on this for all of our students, and we look forward to the report tonight. Now we're going to move on to item 7, which is representatives from our labor associations can address the board. And first, we'll hear from Derek Pizarros of our California School Employees Association.
Thank you, President Larson. Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
All right, great. Good evening, Dr. Hagland. Congratulations on your review. Also, welcome our new principals, and congratulations to those who have received recognition this evening. Also, I'd like to say good evening to the Board of Trustees, the greater PUSD leadership, staff, and families. This evening, members of our classified bargaining unit gathered for an informational picket. The information we are attempting to communicate to the public is the same we've been bringing here for several months. Dissatisfaction at the state of negotiations, dismay at the level of recognition, disappointment in the district's priorities. My last public statement touched on numbers and dates and budgets. We've communicated these things to you, so that is not what I want to speak to. When discussing the atmosphere between classified staff and the district, I had a member tell me that she thought it felt like she was in quote unquote a bad relationship. That really made me think, so I hope you'll forgive me. That's how I'd like to frame my public comment tonight. Not completely unlike a marriage, CSEA has a living relationship with the district. Our vows or our contract outlines our roles. We do the cooking and cleaning and maintain the yard and make sure the internet works. The district makes sure we have a roof over our heads while we help our brothers and sisters in APT do the real work of educating the kids. It's a gross, but it's a relatable simplification. In case this is news to anyone in attendance tonight, our relationship isn't doing so hot. During uncertain times, we continue to honor our vows while our partners seem to be, with some exceptions, satisfied with doing the minimum to communicate and express our value. We've seen our neighbors and our relatives in similar relationships fare much better. While renewing our vows, we have attempted reconciliation. What the membership has felt in response is ignored and dismissed and disrespected. So tonight I ask what you would do in such a relationship. Continuing in this manner isn't an option. It isn't healthy for our house or for the people within it. We want the relationship to work, and we've decided that nothing is off the table to reach that end. We ask you tonight to search yourselves for what kind of relationship you want. How do you foster that? And what is the cost that passage of time may be? We intend to aggressively pursue this relationship we all deserve, one of mutual respect, one of growth, and one where we evolve together, leaving no one behind. Let's redouble our efforts. Let's fix this before we break what is so strained right now. We believe in this relationship, or we wouldn't be here trying to make it work. Let's do this for the future of PUSD. Let's do this for each other, and let's do this for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. As I understand it, some congratulations are in order for the president of Association of Pleasanton Teachers, who has a child graduating from college today. Is there a representative from APT who is speaking in her stead? All right. Then we will move on to public comment from the community. Mr. Gannon, do we have some public comment?
We do, President Larson. Let's see. Just want to make sure that we check on who's in the room. All right. So we will start with, hang on, I just lost my, we'll start with Zachary Dooley, followed by Brad Zakrzewski, and then finally Cheryl Azelton.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I also wanted to take the time to thank the district for putting together the town halls we had this week. I attended those. I'm a parent of a child at Horizon, and I think while it was good, there was some information that still needs to be analyzed and looked at. And I know that the board is planning a vote on whether or not Horizons will continue 2 weeks from now. And so I'd like to make a request for a couple items that need to be looked at before I think that vote can be made under the right circumstances. So I'd like to request that the parents of Horizons, we put together a pretty comprehensive presentation on options we think Horizons has to reach sustainability. And speaking for the parents, I would like us to have the ability to give that presentation to the board and the superintendents and get their thoughts on it and their response. Also, during the town hall, the information they gave, while good, was all looking in the past. And since Horizon has been open to the public, there's always been some restriction with the contract was under the licensing or with COVID and hasn't had a chance to reach its full potential. So the parents would like to see the analysis more forward-looking about what numbers the district is looking at that made them come to the conclusion that the Horizon financial situation is unworkable. We like to at least look at those and see them and be able to make that conclusion ourselves. And then third, it seems like the resources planning that the financial analysis has been done for, that the district has not taken into account or talked to the actual staff at Horizons to get an accurate understanding of what the resource requirements actually are. So I request that the district does that moving forward. Thanks. Before a vote is done in 2 weeks.
Okay, next we'll have Brad Zakrzewski and then Cheryl Azelton.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great, thank you. First, I would like to thank the Board of Trustees for allowing me time to speak this evening. My name is Brad Zakrzewski, and I'm the parent of 2 boys who have attended Horizon, one of whom is still currently enrolled. I'm speaking tonight to express my concern about the administration's willingness to collaborate with Horizon parents and conduct an objective, thorough, and timely assessment of Horizon. First, in the parent town hall on Tuesday, the administration gave a presentation that was a thinly veiled defense of their predetermined proposal to close Horizon. They admitted to considering closing Horizon in 2018 when it first opened to the public and before even giving it a chance. It appears their minds were made up 3 years ago and they set up Horizon to fail from the start. Second, when asked what actions or alternatives the administration explored to address Horizon's financial situation, they did not have a good answer, but instead provided a laundry list of items, none of which will help return Horizon to financial solvency. Third, in the subsequent staff town hall, the administration quoted that the highest fee they could find for an infant program in the area was $2,200 a month. This is disconcerting given that a 5-minute search can produce readily available rates for local programs with much higher fees. This just illustrates the administration's lackadaisical approach and reinforces that they have instead chosen to take the easy route without any consideration of the impacts of such a decision. And finally, the administration indicated they would meet with the parents to discuss the presentation we developed, which outlines paths to self-sufficiency. More than 48 hours later, the meeting has yet to be scheduled. You may think you haven't given them enough time, but must I remind everyone that the Horizon parents and staff only found out that Horizon was on the board agenda less than a week before the meeting, and it is our understanding that parents were not to be made aware of the agenda topic at that meeting. So no, I haven't gifted them a lot of time, but the administration needs to be held to the same standard it has set. I end by respectfully requesting that the vote on the future of Horizon be delayed indefinitely until the parents and Board of Trustees have confidence that the administration has conducted a best efforts review of the program and collaborated with parents in this process. And if what I've seen thus far represents their best efforts, then I have serious doubts about their willingness to collaborate with the parents and conduct a thorough and objective review of the program. Thank you.
All right, and finally we'll have Cheryl Azelton.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Cheryl Azelton. I'm a longtime resident of Pleasanton. I have 2 children who have attended PUSD from K to 12, and I'm a 20-year employee at Horizon Early Education. I would first like to express my gratitude to you for pulling the agenda item to vote last month on dismissing all of the Horizon staff positions, therefore ending the program that was started in 1975. 46 years ago, SAM School Age Mothers was created, and in 2016, the board voted to allow the program to become fully licensed and care for infants and toddlers of PUSD employees, community members, as well as teen parents. We were finally licensed in February of 2017. Unfortunately, the program was not under any administrative support. Staff was reassigned to other schools, and we were not allowed to enroll families for summers or outside the school day hours. The fees to the Department of Social Services were left delinquent, although they were only at $230. In August of 2018, we only were allowed teen students. In September of 2018, our first community families enrolled with us. We had limited staffing. We didn't even have a bank account to deposit the fees. We worked overtime and additional hours to cover the program. I want you to understand the history of the program. So when you see the business services outline of lack of sustainability and low enrollment numbers, you will know why. How do you have full-time enrollment without full-time, full-year staff? The program was finally on track and under the admin of Kids Club. And from March 2019 to 2020, the program enrollment was at 10 infants and 8 toddlers, including 3 teen parents, 2 PUSD teachers, and 2 children with exceptional needs. 13 families had also toured and were committed to enroll as we hired staff and babies were born. The program had 1 year of administrative support and no budget that was ever shared knowledge. We also came back as essential workers in June 2020 with very unreal low numbers. Please review the accurate proposed operation plan submitted by the parents and guardians of Horizon students. Thank you so much for listening.
That concludes public comment.
All right, thank you very much for those public comments. At this time, we will move on to item 9, which is our student board member report. Sachi.
Hi, Pleasanton community members and Pleasanton board members. I am Sachi Bayani, the current school representative for Foothill High School. I'm here to talk about the new student non-binding vote, which will be implemented in the upcoming school year. This vote is a non-binding student vote. This representative will be elected anonymously through the student body. So the basic process is students will all apply to become a representative just like the previous process, but now all representatives will stand in an election anonymously to have a non-binding student vote. This representative who wins the election will be present at all board meetings and will be voting on all the board agendas. Thank you.
Sachi, just a couple questions before you leave the Zoom for the public's benefit. The vote that the student board member will have is a preferential vote, is that correct?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
It means that the student's vote does not carry any legal binding because the state of California does not allow that, but it does represent the overall vote of the student body.
And will we still hear reports from students on the various high schools at each board meeting?
Yes, we will. So most board meetings will actually have 2 student representatives, one for the high school reports that will be chosen through the current procedure we have in place, and then along with the student representative who will be voting.
And when can we expect the vote to happen each fall, approximately?
We are planning to have the application process is now open, but the interview process and the selection process will open up in August for all the applicants, and the election process will.
Great. Are there other questions from trustees tonight? Great. Thank you so much for that. We really look forward to it. And thank you and SIAC and everybody for all your hard work on developing the new policy for Pleasanton Unified and the new role for our student board member. It's great. Dr. Hagelin, your superintendent's report, please.
Thank you. First, I want to take a moment to thank Sachi and Pleasanton SIAC, the Student Interschool Action Council, for their work in creating a process to strengthen and expand student voice and representation in the boardroom. We have long welcomed students at our board meetings and have appreciated their keeping us up to date on activities at the high schools. This shift, as described moments ago by Sachi, provides the opportunity for a student to vote on decisions that affect the future of our district. It also furthers our vision of fostering responsible, resilient, engaged world citizens. I think we look forward to welcoming PUSD's first elected student board member to the dais in the coming school year. So thank you again, Sachi. I also want to give one more shout out to the class of 2021 and to all the family and PUSD team members who helped our seniors find their way to graduation in the midst of a pandemic. Standing before our seniors as they sat alone on the fields for the ceremony, I reflected on the fact that they did not get there alone. They relied on the support of parents, friends, teachers, and others during an incredibly difficult year. I think I can speak for everyone in this room when I say how awesome it was to bump elbows with those amazing young people as they crossed the stage and entered the next phase of their lives. The truth is, the entire community has shown amazing grit and resilience throughout the pandemic. Our collective efforts resulted in progress that we all should be proud of. 2021 yielded successes that we will reflect upon for years to come and paved the way for a safe return to normalcy in the upcoming school year. But we're also thinking about those members of the class of 2020 who did not have the opportunity to participate in a ceremony. I'm excited to report that we're exploring the possibility of a ceremony to celebrate the members of the class of 2020 in a combined PUSD event. We expect that such a recognition will occur sometime in late July or August, but the date is yet to be determined. Tomorrow, emails with a link to a survey will be sent to the families of students who graduated from our high schools in 2020. I'm asking tonight that families help us get the surveys completed, one per student, by June 25th so that we can gauge interest and make a plan. On another note, earlier this week, the state announced that Alameda County has officially entered the yellow tier as daily COVID-19 cases continue to decline and the vaccination rates increase. Well done, everybody. I think that deserves a round of applause. Yellow tier. The CDC also announced that California ranks near the bottom in the nation for test positivity rates. While the precautions we've taken this past year relating to remote learning, physical distancing, and mask wearing have been challenging and inconvenient, to say the least, it's clear that our collective sacrifices led us to a better, safer, and stronger place together. I've said this a lot lately, but I love saying it. We are fully engaged in our preparations to return all PUSD students in the fall to full-time in-person learning at all of our school sites. Another round of applause. Tonight, we begin our annual discussions relating to the district's budget. Although we have much to celebrate and look forward to, a good deal of uncertainty lies ahead. The pandemic has taken a toll on our enrollment, which we continue to work to bring back up to pre-pandemic levels. You'll hear some of those details tonight during item 12.6. And while we certainly have an influx of one-time funding due to the fact that we are able to reopen schools effectively, this one-time funding cannot be relied upon for ongoing costs moving forward. As public servants, it's our responsibility to be wise financial stewards, both for the students who are with us now, as well as for those students who will come our way in the years ahead. And that's my report for tonight.
We're so looking forward to it. It's just with great, I don't know if the relief is the right word. We know we're not out of the pandemic. We know that there are still challenges. We know that, but it's starting to feel like things are, all of our hard work and all of the things that we've been putting in place and all the sacrifices that have been made are really starting to pay off for us. And, it's just really hopeful to think about. So thank you for that. Now we'll move on to our consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they wish to pull to discuss? Nope. Then I'll seek a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second?
All right.
Aye.
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 Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 12.1 are items on for report, discussion, and possible action. And so tonight we have a report from our partners in education, the Pleasanton Partnership in Education Foundation. Dr. Hagelin.
So tonight I believe we have Mr. Steve McCoy-Thompson, who's ready to lead us in a presentation. You there, Steve?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Go for it.
Great. I believe I have some slides, but what would a presentation be without slides? So I don't know if Patrick, if you're able to show those. And if not, I can always fake it.
I think he's working on it, Steve. Hang on a
Okay,
second.
great. I'll just get started. It's a great pleasure. Thank you, Superintendent, members of the board and cabinet. It's been a great pleasure working with you through a truly tumultuous year. I'm really happy to report that when we engage with our families, they are almost universally positive and appreciative and really looking forward to getting back to school next year. So thank you. PPIE, as you know, raises funds for all of our schools. We support all 15 of our public schools and over 14,000 students. Here we go. Thanks. If you can go to the next slide. And then we support all of our schools. I wanted to share with you what we've been able to do in terms of fundraising for the past couple of years, which I think is on slide 3, if you can get to that. There you go. Boom. We were able to collectively donate $776,000 to our schools this year, which was, as you can see, is a record. However, 139,000 of that was PPIE's role in facilitating donations for the We Are Pleasanton campaign, which put up an awning structure at Amador Valley High School, which we're really thrilled that happened. At the same time, if you want to go to the next slide, what PPIE did, we actually raised about 85% of revenue compared to last year, which was a record year. And when you compare that with other school foundations, we actually did pretty well. So I think we're happy with that. But we need to, as to coin a phrase, build back in a better, stronger way for next year. And we're already working on that in ways to engage our families. Parent participation it slipped back a little bit this year to about 23%. And we're looking forward again to building that back. If you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. So therefore, if you take away the 139, what we were able to actually donate was about 637,000. And the bulk of that went for our intervention specialist positions, which we helped to support the funding of a couple of years ago. And like you, we've been thrilled with the progress. It's really been spectacular. I think both the teachers and the parents really appreciate the way it's been deployed, taking time with our students who need help at all levels, reading and some level of math support. So that's been great. We've been able to support the position of Monica Wharton, who is the news, who's been our quote wellness director, our student assistance program specialist, and she's done a great job of building out our wellness programs throughout the school district, primarily really at the high school and the middle schools, and we hope to do more at the elementary schools as well. Library, funding some level of support counselors, providing support to Village High School, and providing our grants. So next slide. So this is kind of a breakdown, and what we do every year, in case what parents don't know this, what we do is in the fall we will solicit votes. So we'll ask people to vote, and they can go to our website at ppie.org. We'll have that link up there soon, and we ask for their opinions on what kinds of positions we should fund, and then we raise funds throughout the year with August registration, some key events. And then at the end of the year, we collaborate with the principals to get their input, and we issue a letter to the school district to articulate what kinds of things where we want the money to go. So our parents have the confidence that they know where their money is going. And so that's how we've been working it for the past several years, and I think it's been going quite well. And the collaboration with school district leadership in this regard has been really excellent. Next slide. So just a recap of the year. As was great. You know, we not only had, you know, the auction, but we had Juliet Goodrich do a kind of a mock newscast where Dr. Hagland was interviewed. We engaged a lot of restaurants where they gave discounts. We had online classes. It was great. Next slide. We also we pivoted from our run to a virtual run, and we looked to run around the world. And we didn't quite make it, but we got close. And next year, I can say, I'm very happy to say that we are planning to have a fall gala in person at the Palm Center. And it's going to be on October 24th, mark your calendars. And it's going to be on a Sunday because by the time Castlewood let us know that we couldn't host it there, all the Friday, Saturday spots were taken. So we're going to do it on Sunday from 4:30 to 8:30. And if bad news happens, we do have a fallback plan. And for the virtual run, we're planning to do April 24th at the fairgrounds. Next slide. So just want to showcase what we did for the virtual race. We had discounts from restaurants. We had a really fun shirt. If you could look at the logo closely, you'll see it's an apple with lots of keywords associated with our very difficult year. And I just want to showcase this one quote from a licensing teacher that she said that, you know, after the pandemic first hit, when we pivoted from our run to a virtual run in a matter of about a month, she said that she knew things would be okay, that kind of community resilience that has been showcased by everyone at the district in spades this year, really, you know, it was her first indication. So it was really nice to hear that. Next slide. And we continue to have our State of the School District lunch. We had our second one was via Zoom. And we continue to recognize our pillars of Pleasanton. These are all businesses that provide some level of support, whether it's volunteer or funding or a gift item to be auctioned. And we've given those out, and it's been a great way to recognize these businesses and other businesses. So next slide. And we did a speed interview program where we've done that for the past couple of years. And this year we pivoted to do it virtually. And honestly, it was a huge hit. I will say our business people loved it because they can leave their desk, do a Zoom interview, and then go back to work. And I think our students really benefited from it. And if you go to the next slide, we built on that to do some new things this year. We started a new business school engagement program where we're basically asking teachers to define what kind of business engagement they want, whether it's a class speaker or a club mentor or what have you. And so we've been working with these companies. Omron Robotics now has a really great mentorship relationship with a couple of robotics clubs in high school and middle school. Salesforce, a person from there, conducted a 3-session course on product marketing that is based on a course that this woman is giving at St. Mary's College. And the city of Pleasanton has awarded us a small grant to continue the program. So it's been really phenomenal. Lucky's given us money to continue this program, as has Roche Molecular. And Oracle, a lot of our grants would not be possible without their support. So next slide. Speaking of grants, we expanded our grant program this year. So we've often given kind of student grants and teacher grants. This past year, we opened it up to providing small dollar grants for applications for school learning. And I can tell you those were just gobbled up. The teachers loved them, and we maxed out very quickly. And then we also provided grants that were made possible by Chevron, kind of back to campus grants. where teachers could go to an application platform called Donors Choose and select items that they needed for their classrooms. And that was a huge hit as well. So we're really happy that went so well. And we also started a wellness program with Monica Wharton and all the support counselors. And we started something called Wellness Wednesdays, where we asked our parents to identify questions that they had, you know, like how do you stay calm in the moment? How do I work with my child who might be experiencing stress and anxiety? And for any of you who are on this call, go to our website at ppie.org and click on the YouTube button, and you'll see these videos. They're really good, they're short, they're powerful, and we're looking to do more next year, maybe with a wellness series. Next slide. And I just want to say thank you to everyone at our PTAs, at all of our schools, at the PFC, at Leidixon, really most particularly with all of you. It's really been wonderful. Joan Larson was on the board for a number of years, a fantastic contributor, and we decided, sort of at Joan's suggestion, that we have a rotating opportunity for school board members to sit on our board in a non-voting capacity for a one-year term, but they can't extend, as one of their many committee assignments. And so having Mary Jo Carrion on the board has been fantastic, and it really provides a really nice perspective. So it's this collaboration, as Dr. Hagelin said, it's really the us and PUSD that makes all this possible. So that's it. Thank you. If you have any questions, any parents out there, that's how you can contact me. I do respond. I love talking with people, as many of our board members know. Sometimes I talk too much, but I do love to talk, and I'd love to talk to all of you. So thank you very much.
Are there any questions for Steve from our trustees?
Just quick. Steve, I just wanted to, thank you personally. Just like we were talking about our superintendent earlier today, in a year when this could have gone nowhere, boy, what a set of accomplishments. So I really appreciate that. Which is the meeting where you guys bring that big check to show us?
Yeah.
Usually this one.
Usually it's this one, and I'm just hoping that next year when we make this presentation, we'll come with that big check, and so we can take that photo.
We'll have to do a Photoshop mock-up of it.
Okay, yeah, we'll work on it. All right,
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Well, thank you.
I'll talk to Patrick. I'm sure you can do your magic.
There you go. Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
I just wanted to make a comment. I just wanted to thank PPIE and Steve for your leadership. Working in the nonprofit sector, I've had the opportunity to do that. I know the extreme amount of work it takes to fundraise and to put off a virtual fun run. Woohoo! I'm sure many of us here participated in that. Really enjoyed getting to know you on economic vitality meetings we've been attending, and further fostering also some of the things that you've shared with the partnerships with the businesses and the schools and the community, just expanding that partnership. Love the fact that our students are getting to know more about our local businesses and opportunities for their careers, and you have really provided that leadership with PPIE, and excited to see what comes down the pipeline, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Just to build on that a little bit, I'm happy to say that we're able to give back collectively more to our schools than we receive from parents because of the corporate engagement and the events that we put on. So that's fantastic, and we're really happy about this business school engagement. And we believe that one of the ways to reduce stress among our students is to give them a vision of their future. And if we can work with businesses to provide a vision of careers that they could have, and a reason for why they're studying so hard, then that helps. So thank you for your words.
I just want to say thank you. I know these programs really make a difference in the classroom. I've known firsthand, I've received some of these grants and the librarians and the computers and the intervention specialists. So I want to say thank you for making a difference in the lives of students.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Steve. Look forward to the work of the organization and all your volunteers. Oh, Mr. Maher would like to say something.
Just one real quick comment, Steve. What I really appreciate, besides what everyone has said and what you do, is how you're always champion our district, always saying something good about the district, how you should get involved in the school district, and how you support students. And that to me, means a lot. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Well, you all make it easy to champion the district, so thank you.
Thanks, Steve, for everything.
Awesome. All right, number 12.2, report discussion on parent and caregiver engagement workshop series. Dr. Woodward?
Thank you, President Larson, trustees, Dr. Haglund, Cabinet, and Pleasanton community. This is a report and discussion on the Parent Caregiver Engagement Workshop Series. In January 2021, we hosted the first Parent Caregiver and Child Workshop Series that focused on early literacy, math, social emotional learning, and child development. The series consisted of 9 virtual sessions and culminated in May. Funding for the program was through the first 5 Alameda County Kindergarten Transition Grant. And the overarching goal was to promote family engagement and school readiness skills for students who were adversely impacted by the pandemic. The series was developed and taught by 2 of our wonderful PUSD kindergarten teachers, Kathy Malone and Kelly Maher, and was open to all PUSD students in TK, K, and Harvest Park Preschool and STEAM Preschool. So at this time, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Elementary Director Galletti, who will take it from here with the input of our 2 fantastic teachers who made this program successful. Director Galletti?
Thank you, Dr. Woodworth. Give me a minute to present. All right. Good evening, Dr. Haglund, President Larson, Board of Trustees, Cabinet, and community. Tonight, alongside my colleague, Kelly Maher, we are excited to share with you the successful Parent and Caregiver Engagement Workshop Series that was held this past school year. The Parent and Child Workshop Series was created and taught, as Dr. Woodworth said, by Mrs. Malone and Mrs. Maher. Ms. Malone is a kindergarten teacher at Walnut Grove, and unfortunately she was not able to be with us tonight. But tonight, Ms. Maher, kindergarten teacher at Hearst Elementary, is with us, and we will get to hear more details about the program from her. Funding again for the workshop series was made possible through First 5 Alameda County Kindergarten Transition Grant, which focused on engaging families with our community and school district to promote school readiness. I'll now pass it to Ms. Maher so she can give us highlights of the program.
Thank you, Shay. Kathy and I created a 9-class parent and child engagement series. We held classes through Zoom on Wednesday nights. Our class themes were farm, weather, letter and numbers for little learners, bugs, friendship, family, and stories we love. We anchored each class theme with a fiction or nonfiction children's book. Another exciting part of our series was that through the grant, we were able to purchase and provide every family with all the supplies needed. Each family received 2 shopping bags of supplies to keep. This included magnetic letter sets, school supplies, yoga mats, and over 14 children's books. Our classes incorporated kindergarten standards, school readiness skills, and the 5 CASTLE competencies of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. During our Zoom classes, families gathered around their computers to participate. We taught to both parents and the students. We would teach the parents explicit skills and educational strategies and activities. We modeled how to teach our littlest learners. We also taught parents how to differentiate for their child's specific needs. In our classes, we gave time for parents and children to practice the skill building together. We always concluded our classes with our anchor books and yoga.
I got excited to introduce Miss Maher, and I forgot to tell some important details. A couple of the details was that this was open to all of our transitional kindergarten students, students at STEAM preschool and our Harvest Park preschool. We were extremely excited that we had representation from all of our schools. In addition, one of the fundamental core components of the grant was to promote the connectiveness of our school district, families, community, and teachers. And it is really important to note that this was the first time Pleasanton offered this type of parent and child engagement series where the parents and children were working together and learning together. The program was both rewarding and successful, and we plan to continue funding the program in subsequent years through the LCAP. In addition, looking at the needs of our community, we are expanding the program to include a summer bridge session for students entering kindergarten this fall. We also are going to provide a Spanish and English cohort. And I'm going to close on that and thank you for allowing us to share this special program with you tonight and open it up for any comments or questions.
Anyone have any questions for Director Galletti?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
I just would like to applaud putting together this type of program, especially with our unprecedented times with COVID this past year, and doing it virtually through Zoom. You know, the collaboration and getting parents engaged with their children. I love the fact that you highlighted differentiation for parents, you know, for parents to learn how to work with their children in engaging ways, and especially as we know, if we can catch struggling readers early on. I loved the themes that you had that are really student-centered, and can't wait to hear more about the Spanish cohort, elaborating into reaching more students, and just really applaud your efforts, and I'm super excited to hear how this program grows. Job well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick thing for me is that, you know, and it really, really is exciting. And, you know, as we're going to talk about in our LCAP section 12 point, whichever one it is this time, you know, parent engagement is one of the 5 key pillars of LCAP, and this is just like right in the sweet spot for that. So just think this is a great use of that, you know, those funds for, you know, for this purpose, which is one of the key priorities that we need to do. So thank you.
Shay, I was wondering, are you going to continue in Zoom, or are you going to branch out to different schools and then kind of have a hub area? Or?
Great question. Within tradition and following that school will be returning to in-person, the parent engagement series will also be returning to in-person. And our new coordinator of equity and access, Soraya Villasenor, is the one who's going to be leading up the Spanish cohort. And so that's just because I know Trustee Makashi, you had asked about that. We're very excited. And I have to give a lot of kudos to both Ms. Malone and Ms. Maher, because really this was their creation, and just a lot of hard work went into each of the classes and ensuring they were meeting the needs of the students and the families.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Are you done? I just wanted to ask one question, or just for the benefit of the public on the pie chart. I don't know if you, because that reminded me, Shay. Did you mention again that it was roughly how many families this year?
We had approximately 25 families, which when you consider Zoom and just the different things that happen, that is a great number. We hope to grow that number next year as well.
Okay.
Can I add, there were multiple family members actually that joined our Zoom calls. We had preschoolers. We even had older siblings that would fill in for parents and do the activities with our little ones. So although we had 25 families, we had over 100 people on our Zooms easily.
That's great. And thank you, Shay, for reminding about the equity piece and bringing in that. I know I did ask about that. I think that'll be a really nice tie-in to help bridge the gap for some of our struggling students. So thank you.
Mary Jo?
How are people invited? Is it a flyer or?
Yes, we actually, Ms. Malone and Ms. Maher created a flyer. We gave it to every single TK and kindergarten teacher to share with their classroom families. We asked principals to share it in their weekly communications. We also sent it to the STEAM staff and the Harvest Park preschool staff. I also asked the parent liaisons to reach out to families who they think this would be a great opportunity and would enjoy participating.
Shay, as part of our, LCAP dollars, our EL students are part and parcel of that. Have we considered a cohort for another language besides Spanish?
We 100% can consider that. We would need to look at our resources and just start working and planning on it.
Great. I think that's a great idea. All right. Thank you so much for the presentation and great work, everybody, on that. That was sounds like some sort of entertaining learning going on for all the family members that participated this year, whether or not they had preschoolers or not, or TK children. Great. So now we're going to move on to 12.3, report discussion on early literacy assessment and instruction. Dr. Woodward, is that you as well?
Yes, it is. Thank you. So our district utilizes a 3-tiered approach to early literacy, and this provides high-quality instruction for all students in what we call tiers. Tier 1, which would be for all students, strategic support for identified students in Tier 2, and intensive intervention for students with the greatest need in Tier 3. And this approach addresses multiple strands of learning that contribute to skilled reading and is based on fluent execution and coordination of word recognition and text comprehension. Tonight we want to update the trustees on the model we are using that includes multiple forms of assessment to provide screening and diagnostic information about our students. And this will include the Rapid Automized Naming, RAN, and Acadience, formerly known as DIBBLES. And this presentation this evening will also address our thinking on next steps in terms of the professional development that pertains to the 5 essential components of literacy. So I will turn it over to directors Dr. Van de Kemp and Shay Galletti.
Good evening, Dr. Haglund, President Larson, Board of Trustees, and community. Tonight, I get to present again, this time with my colleague, Dr. Van de Kamp, and we will be presenting on POSD's early literacy assessment and instruction. To understand the approach to teaching literacy, we need to refer back to the response to intervention model, in which support for student learning is broken into 3 tiers. Tier 1 is for all students and encompasses quality instruction on the strands of word recognition and language comprehension in order for students to learn to decode words and comprehend text. Tier 2 instruction is responsive to student needs and involves differentiated instruction to target specific reading skills through reteaching and short-term and 2 have not been successful and includes individualized instruction and/or intensive intervention to remediate skills. At each level of the RTI pyramid, assessments are used to inform student learning. In Tier 1, a universal screener is used to identify students who have gaps in foundational reading skills and for students who are at risk for experiencing reading difficulties. The information from universal screening is also used to plan core reading instruction. Diagnostic assessments are given to all students to distinguish their competency level on grade level standards. Within Tier 2, teachers use diagnostics assessments data to pinpoint students' individual strengths, weaknesses, knowledge, and skills in order to differentiate and psychoeducational assessments are specialized assessments conducted by a school psychologist and/or an educational specialist to determine if a student has learning disabilities. Throughout each tier, teachers utilize progress monitoring tools to evaluate the effectiveness of instruction and interventions in order to determine next steps in student learning.
Good evening again. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about assessments that focus on early literacy in our district. In PUSD, there are a number of assessments used to measure achievement and growth in literacy across all grade levels. And tonight I would like to highlight two in particular here, which are predictive of performance on a variety of reading and reading-related skills. Both of these assessments can be administered during the same testing session. During the fall of each school year, our classified reading intervention support specialists, also supported through our local control accountability plan, visit each school on a rotating schedule and work together with the intervention specialists to conduct the rapid automatized screener, or the RAN, and the Acadience reading, which was formerly known as DIBBLS and is our diagnostic. And they do these with kindergarten through second grade students. So the RAN, the rapid automatized naming, is a task that involves quickly and accurately naming repeated sets of familiar items. And in our case, we use colors because we find that is the easiest for students to identify. And it's based on a model through the University of Arkansas. There is a significant negative correlation between reading difficulties and RAN, meaning that less time spent completing the RAN correlates to higher scores on our Acadience reading measures. So we also want to note that it's important to note that the RAN measures, while useful for screening students for risk for future reading difficulties, are not well suited for progress monitoring purposes. And for that reason, it's administered once to students upon entry into school. So in 2019, we administered it to all kindergartners and new students in grades 1 and 2. The year previously, we administered it to all students in K through 2, since that was the first time that we had used this tool. Typically, it takes a few minutes to administer, and then we use the recommendations from the University of Arkansas in terms of scoring. So the other assessment that I would like to share with you tonight is the Acadience reading. And these measures are brief, powerful indicators of foundational early literacy skills that are quick and efficient to score, and they serve as a universal screener and a progress monitoring measure. So that's why we administer them 3 times during the year. They identify students in need of intervention support, evaluate the effectiveness of interventions, and support our RTI multi-tiered model that Director Galletti just talked about. And they provide valid and reliable universal screening to target for instructional support. And so I'd like to share a little bit of data from both of these measures with you at this time. So this is the data for our rapid automatized naming, or the RAN, and this focuses on students who were tested in 2019 and 2020. So this is all kindergartners and then new students in first and second grade. And so you can see the recommendation is to focus on the bottom 20%, so students who have the least fluency in naming the colors. And so you can see that our intensive group matches that 20%. Of all the students that were assessed, 10% or 11% fell into that strategic group, and then 67% were at benchmark. And so they were able to quickly identify the colors in a short amount of time. When we dig a little deeper into this information and we look at that intensive group, we can see how that group fell out based on particular student groups. And so if we look, we can see for our emerging bilinguals, also known as our English learners, who are about 11% in our district. They are 22% of them are identified in this intensive group. Our students who are low income, who comprise about 9% of the students in our district, are identified at 10% based on this assessment. And then our students with disabilities, so students who have an individualized education program, are at 6.3%. And then in addition, you can also see how our demographic groups are represented in this intensive group of students. And so, for example, our Asian students are close to 50% of our student population, but are represented with 25% in this graphic. And our Hispanic students, who represent about, I want to say 7 to 8%, are 11% of the students. So when we look at our enrollment data, we can see that there are discrepancies between the students who are identified with this screener and the students that are in our classrooms. I'd also like to share a little bit of information about the Acadians scores. And so this is the 3-year trend for first grade based on Acadians from 2017 and 18. You can see we had 846 students who were assessed both fall, winter, and spring. In 2018-19, we had 309 students. And so this came because in the spring, we only assessed those students who were not at the benchmark based on the winter assessment, or the winter diagnostic. And then last year, we had 832 students who were assessed both fall and winter, and due to the global pandemic and the shelter in place, we didn't administer it in the spring. So there are 3 data sets, and the data gathered is based on the same measure, but it looks a little different for each administration due to the particular circumstances. So when we look at our 3-year trend, we can see that in 2017-18, all students assessed at the end of the year, at the end of the year, were 7.9% were intensive, 6.5% were strategic, 15% were at benchmark, and the vast majority of our students at 70.6% were at above benchmark. Similarly, for the spring administration in 2019, because we only assessed those students who had been considered below benchmark in the winter, 32% continued to be below benchmark, 18% were at strategic, 22% had moved into that benchmark level, and then 26% had moved into the above benchmark from below. Similarly, if we look at the scores for 2020 in the winter, 8.5 at intensive, 4.5 at strategic, 8.4 at benchmark, and then 78.5 at the above benchmark. And so at this time, I would like to turn it back to Director Galletti to talk more about our instructional model.
Thank you, Dr. Van de Kamp. This graphic represents the continuum of effective reading instruction. After the universal screening and the diagnostic assessments are given, teachers analyze the data to identify areas of need based on the 5 components of reading instruction: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Tier 1, which is core instruction, includes each of the substrands listed underneath the overarching component. Tier 2 would include reteaching and short-term intervention of the isolated skills, and Tier 3 would involve intensive intervention of the isolated skills. In order to build capacity for Tier 1 instruction, we are developing a multi-year plan to provide professional development to TK through 2nd grade teachers on the 5 fundamental components of literacy instruction. LETTERS, which stands for the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, is a comprehensive research-based teacher professional development program that accelerates teacher efficacy in teaching reading. It is accredited by the International Dyslexia Association, and currently, our elementary intervention specialists are in the process of becoming certified LETTERS trainers. This will allow them to facilitate professional development with our teachers in the fall. Providing in-depth training equips educators with the background knowledge and the expertise to ensure every student becomes a skilled reader. With that, I will go ahead and close our presentation and open it for questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Galetti. Questions? Kelly?
I just have a comment. First and foremost, thank you for the very comprehensive presentation. I know I'd asked some questions prior, and I appreciate the detail and clarification. I love the fact that you highlighted that you're using or triangulating 3 data sets that really helps to give a better picture on where our students are falling. And it's something very personal for me because my daughter benefited from intervention services, and so I know that my daughter was flagged and certainly had benefit for these types of assessments. I do have one question. You mentioned at the end about letters being associated with the Dyslexia Association. So my question is, when the teachers have been analyzing the data, are they able to kind of flag out any students who might have dyslexic tendencies, or is that not part of a capacity of the analysis of the data from either, well, I knew it as DIBELS, but Acadience or, the other assessment data?
Yeah, both the RAN is actually the universal screener for dyslexia. DIBELS would also fall into that. However, as they're providing intervention and through progress monitoring, if they're realizing the student is not progressing and being able to get those isolated skills that they're providing intervention on, then the intervention goes up to more intense intervention. Though in order to diagnose dyslexia, that would then go into the psychoeducational evaluation I was talking about. So it is kind of a ladder system, if that helps answer the question.
Just to add to that, the RAN is that initial screener. And then based on that, we have a group of 20% of our students. We can look deeper into their Acadience data to see where the particular gaps are for those students. And then we can determine what kinds of intervention programs, as Shay said, Tier 2 in particular, that would be most applicable for those students.
Okay, great. And then my other question is for the 5-year plan for the professional development. I love the benefit of these tools. Is there an option to speed that up, or how would that roll out? It's just 5 years, it seems. It's such an urgency. Can you tell a little bit more about how you're planning to map that out? And you may not be able to answer that now, but I would love to hear more information about that down the road on the plan to get all the TK teachers trained on letters.
Yeah, I can definitely follow that up with a board communique. Part of the 5-year rollout is also looking at our capacity because it involves substitutes and pulling teachers out of classrooms, and of course budgeting over the time of how much it would cost to be able to train our TKK first and second grade teachers. But you can look for in the board communique the plan spelled out.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those are all my comments. Thank you for the update. Really appreciate it.
Mary Jo?
So when I was in the classroom, I got to pilot the Lucy Calkins phonics program, and it was fabulous. And so are teachers still piloting that? Has it been adopted? What's the status with that?
It is a supplemental program used at kindergarten, first and second. The Lucy Calkins phonics does not go above second grade. And it's supplemental because it is a part of the entire units of study program. So teachers are either going to use Benchmark Advanced or the units of study. So teachers could be using Benchmark Advanced instead of the Lucy Calkins phonics. However, it was supplied to any teacher at K1-2 where it's offered who wanted to use it. Just to note, letters is actually not based on a curriculum. It's based on the instructional foundational skills of reading and what every single teacher would need to teach, and can be applied to any curriculum, whether that be units of study or Benchmark Advanced.
I have a question that I didn't ask in advance, I'm sorry. And if you don't have this information now, I'd be happy to receive it in a communication or for a future board presentation. But we have some teachers who already in our district teach in this manner with the explicit and systematic instruction. Have we ever looked at the number of students who end up needing the additional interventions for reading, or who end up needing more services similar to what would be offered to a student with dyslexia, if they've been receiving instruction in how to read in this manner? I don't know if that's clear. I think I wasn't as clear as I hoped to be in that question.
I 100% understand the question. We have not disaggregated the information in that way. There's also a lot of other factors that would go into a student being successful, I think, more than just looking if they're using, for example, units of study or benchmark advanced. But I do think the tools of what is provided in letters, we will see a significant change in how we teach literacy throughout the district.
And we would therefore expect to see less need for more intensive intervention, I presume?
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you. Steve?
Shay, if I'm understanding this correctly, letters will be for every teacher, correct?
TK through 2 right now is the plan, yes.
Okay. And so in the International Dyslexia Association recommends this is one of their prescriptive programs. If our teachers are using this K2, if there's a student that exhibits even more intervention or needs more intervention, then they would move into with the interventionist?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And how soon can we have this?
We hope to start letters training this fall. The intervention specialists have already completed their first year. It's a 2-year program of training. The intervention specialists, remember, are doing an extra step to actually be certified trainers. They've completed their first year and can start training teachers on year 1. After next year, intervention specialists will be certified to lead the second year of the program.
So they will work with teachers at their individual sites?
We are actually pulling teachers together, and so it's 6 intervention specialists that will be trained, and we will pull cohorts together, and they will work in tandem. So it won't be, for example, school A teaches school A, school B. It'll be teacher A and B will teach several of our schools.
Have all the intervention specialists agreed to do it?
Yes, the 6 that are received it. They actually, just a little, not to go too much and long-winded, I am very passionate about this, but they have said it is the best training they have ever been in their entire life. And many of them already have advanced credentials in reading.
Good, then we need to get after it.
So what I'm hearing you say is that if the board can see its way clear to working on getting additional PD days, that would be a good thing for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
5 years is too long.
yeah. Thank you very much, Director Galletti. That was a wonderful report, and we really appreciate everyone's work on this. As we know, we've been talking for a number of years, really looking at this issue is kind of near and dear to several board members' hearts as well. So thank you so much for that. Let's move on to 12.4, and this is Dr. Vandekamp again. Report, discussion, and possible action to appoint 5 new members to the Local Control Advisory Committee.
Good evening. Thank you. I have multiple items tonight, so I'm excited to be able to speak with you. And this is one that is really a wonderful opportunity to request the appointment of 5 members to our Local Control Advisory Committee. And this committee advises the administration, board, and superintendent on our local control accountability plan. And these are people who are interested and willing to put in multiple hours throughout the year to provide guidance, support, their reflections, and much time to guiding this process. This year we went through an inquiry cycle where we reviewed the current LCAP. We gathered feedback from our community through our listening campaign, and then we analyzed that data and we came up with the recommendations that you will hear tonight. And so we also put out a call for new members, since several members will be leaving us. And I'm very excited that we have 5 people to recommend to the board for appointment tonight, 2 of whom are students, 1 of whom is Sachi, who's here tonight. Very excited about that, our student at Foothill. And then we also would like to recommend Nikhil Sunkad, who's a student at Amador, Ashley Connolly, a parent at Hearst, Andriy Vlatkia, a parent at Alisal, and then Leslie Jones, who is a member of our community and has had several students who have gone through Pleasanton schools. So at this time, I would like to see if there are any questions and then to ask the board for the appointment of these members.
Any questions from the trustees? Not, I'll seek a motion to approve the welcome addition of these 5 new members of the LCAC.
I'll make a motion to approve the new members of the LCAP.
I'll second.
Aye.
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 And aye. Congratulations. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to hearing your contributions to the committee. Now we have 12.5, and this is what we've all been waiting for. This is the public hearing, report, and discussion on the 21-24 Local Control Accountability Plan, and this is our first read. This will come back to the board for approval on the 24th.
Thank you. And I'll just give a brief introduction to this item. This will be led by Dr. Vandekamp and will be supported by one of our student members from the LCAP, Devansh Pandey. And so on that note, Dr. Vandekamp and Devansh, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Woodward. And I also want to thank Devansh for being here this evening to present with me in this presentation. We will also be able to answer any questions you might have at the end of our presentation. So first of all, again, a thank you to all of our members who have supported this work throughout the year, and their names are here again. And I am especially proud that we have not only parents and community members, but members of our local partners through APT and CSEA, and the support of our staff membership, Dr. Woodward, Mr. Dialazzo, and Mr. Sheikh al-Islami. Mr. Gray and I support this work along with all the members of our Teaching and Learning Division and Student Services, and so I'm really grateful to them as well. So as always, our work is aligned to our district organizational goals, which are referenced here. And I want to start with a little bit of background about the local control funding formula and the local control accountability plan. So one of the goals of the local control funding formula is to simplify how state funding is provided to school districts in California. Under our old funding system, if you remember that, prior to 2013, each school district was funded based on a unique revenue limit and multiplied by its average daily attendance. The LCFF creates funding targets to improve student outcomes. The regulation states that funds apportioned on the basis of the number and concentration of unduplicated or high-need students who are emerging bilinguals, otherwise known as English learners, low-income, unhoused, or foster youth. And funding is used to increase services, so grow the services in quantity, or improve services, meaning growing the services in quality for our high-need students compared to services provided to all students in proportion to the increase in funds apportioned on that basis. And I really appreciate the board referring to this throughout the evening, thinking about how we are funding and supporting those specific student groups and keeping that in mind as we move forward. So this work is focused on state priorities, And all state priorities must be addressed in each year of the local control accountability plan. State priorities are grouped under, as you see here, conditions of learning, student outcomes, and engagement. An education code specifies that the LCAP must include a description of the expected annual measurable outcomes to be achieved for all students and each student group for each state priority. So if we look at our current LCAP plan that technically ended last year, but we also applied throughout this year, you can see how the metrics are aligned with those three areas around conditions of learning, student outcomes, and engagement. And this aligns with our metrics that are identified in the LCAP. And so right now, I'd like us to hear from Devansh as he the process that we went through to develop the LCAP that we are sharing with you tonight. Oh. We should be able to hear this. Oh, I apologize.
Dr. Vandekamp, if you remove your earphones, it might work.
Let's see. Oh, that's probably it. There we go. All right.
And I had the honor of being a student member of LCAC this year. In the past year, the LCAC made a lot of progress in serving the students who are most impacted by the COVID pandemic, and I'm really grateful that I was able to be part of that. In that past year, I learned about how the LCAC funds all manner of valuable programs, from the mariachi program to parent liaisons to other supplemental services, and especially working in small groups with other community members and leaders from the district gave me a lot of new insight into how the committee serves Pleasanton students. While we can constantly improve, the kind of community oversight that the LCAC provides is an excellent step in the right direction, and I'm really excited to have more student members join me on the committee next year.
Great. Thank you, Devansh, for that and for your participation tonight.
I'm Devansh, and I had
there he goes. All right. So let me move forward in our conversation. And what I'd like to do now is share with you the stakeholder feedback that we gathered during our listening campaign. So during our listening campaign in February of 2021, multiple stakeholder groups around the district reviewed the listening campaign presentation, which included our annual measurable outcomes, and they were invited to share feedback through the Thought Exchange platform that we've been using throughout the year and respond to this question. Taking into consideration our district organizational goals outlined in the introduction and with the attached presentation on Thought Exchange, what are the top priorities for our district in order to support all students? And so we gathered that feedback and we looked at it as it's presented in the Thought Exchange platform. And you can see, based on the word cloud, that their responses highlighted the impacts of the global pandemic and concerns that our community shows need for interventions and supports for students in our district. Need for mental health resources, the need for early interventions, and actions and services that target high-need students, including our low-income and students who are considered foster and unhoused students. So with this information, our Local Control Advisory Committee looked at the feedback and engaged in discussion to conduct an analysis using these guiding questions. These questions highlight the focus on high-need students, as we talked about, the gap between our desired goals and our current situation, and the kinds of actions and services that would be most beneficial to bridge that gap. And so based on the stakeholder feedback, categories were created to align within each district organizational goal. And these were then populated by the LCAC with potential ideas for specific actions and targeted services. The resulting actions and services were reviewed to determine if they represented new actions and services or if they were already present in our current LCAP. And so based on all of this work from the committee and through our listening campaign, we have developed the following recommendations that I'd like to share with you tonight. So first of all, we are recommending that we align our LCAP goals to our PUSD district organizational goals. We recognize the impact of aligning our LCAP goals to the district organizational goals and recognize that as the organizational goals may shift or change, our LCAP goals may need to adapt as well to match the needs of our community. Our LCAP goals are also communicated to school sites and they guide the school plan for student achievement. And so we have a tight alignment between what we value, what we focus on as a district, and how that looks in our LCAP, and then also how that is represented at the school sites. So in Goal 1, you can see the actions and services that align are included here with Goal 1 of our recommended LCAP goal, which is also our district organizational Goal 1, focusing on closing achievement and opportunity gaps. And an addition here is to support the use of the MAP growth assessments through base funding, seeing that this goal is focused on personalized learning strategies and growth assessments, and so include that here. Under Goal 2, in response to feedback from our stakeholder groups and in discussion with our advisory committee, we added actions and services that support our emerging bilinguals, low-income, foster, and unhoused students, and specifically our emerging bilingual newcomer liaisons, seeing the need and the increase in newcomer students to our schools, providing mentoring opportunities for our low-income and foster and unhoused students, and then the early literacy resources that are needed to support the work that Director Galletti talked about and that we just reviewed specifically around our early literacy programs. In Goal 3, we want to focus on our district policies and procedures and provide support for programs such as Career Technical Ed, our district equity plan, and in addition, maintaining our board policies and administrative regulations so that we can continue to align with our district organizational goals. In Goal 4, we focus on employee recruitment, development, and retention strategies. And we want to include specific reports here for early literacy and equity. So thinking about the letters model that Shay talked about and really supporting our Tier 1 instruction. And in addition, focus on support for our Pleasanton New Teacher Project and our induction program. And then in Goal 5, we want to improve our customer service and our stakeholder engagement strategies. And so we wanted to add items around parent translation and interpretation services, increase and improve our platforms for community engagement, such as thought exchange. And then, as you heard earlier this evening, including this parent, guardian, and student engagement series targeting kindergarten transition. So we wanted to really include that particular funding there so that we can highlight our commitment to this model. As part of our accountability, we are required to create a parent budget overview. And the parent budget overview for parents is intended to help stakeholders better understand funding decisions included in the LEA's budget, in our district budget. And it's a 6-page document that's attached at the end of our presentation tonight that can be reviewed by our parents. This report should use language that is understandable and accessible to parents and guardians. And finally, our next steps. As part of our development, we will continue to gather feedback and recommendations from the Board of Trustees and also through our thought exchange from our community. And then we will return on June 24th. I apologize for the error there. And with a revised plan for board action. And then following that, the approved plan will be submitted together with the approved budget by June 30th to the Alameda County Office of Education. And at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to our student, Devansh Pandey, and as a member of our local control advisory committee.
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of really interesting and helpful feedback in the past, and we want to continue to get this kind of input from everyone, parents, students, community members. So there's a thought exchange right here, and if you want to just open up your camera app, you can probably scan this with your phone, this QR code here, or you can go to tejoin.com and enter the code that's on the screen, 710-272-712. And with there, you can just access the thought exchange, respond to the question with your own thoughts, rate other people's thoughts, and just give that kind of final feedback we need to finish this plan up and present it fully or get it voted on fully by the board later. And thank you all for the opportunity to present the plan to you. Dr. Van de Kamp and I are now available to answer questions that you have.
Trustees, you have questions for Devansh or Dr. Van de Kamp? I'm sorry, Mary Jo, go ahead. Yes.
So I noticed on page 14, they talked about a recommendation for target tutoring, which I think is a great idea, but I didn't see it in the supplemental action. So can you tell me if we'll have targeted tutoring?
That will be part of our, part of Goal 1. So it's considered under those supplemental actions and services aligned with Goal 1. And we can include that as part of our before and after school programming.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Mark?
A couple of things here. One, I love the alignment of the LCAP to the organizational goals. I thought that was really cool how you did that. What's going to be even cooler is if we, move forward with the goals that Dr. Haglund has adopted for 2021-22. It's even more tailored, I think, to the LCAP in terms of equity and that type of thing. So that's going to be really, really great. Also liked, I don't know if it's been 2 years or whatever since we saw one of these, but the 3-year goal targets that are set for 3 years out for many of the areas. So where we're at a certain percentage of students who are at a certain level, we have a goal then of having that many more students at that level, reduction in suspensions, all those kind of things. And so, having tangible targets is great. You didn't really show any of those in here in your presentation, but it definitely is in the document. So I don't know. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is I had brought up a point when we talked about the ELOG, which is the Extended Learning Opportunity Grant, that there may be the overlaps between that and LCAP, and I don't see a ton of overlaps actually. I mean, there's some things that will be overlap, but these are really specific items that I didn't see particularly mentioned in the ELOG, so that's good, I think. But again, as always, we have a hard time spending all the money that we have for this, so I just really, really hope that we can achieve everything that you guys have set out, because it's a really great plan.
Steve?
Thank you for the report, Ms. Van de Kamp. When I look at the alignment of goals and so forth, when I look at number 1, goal 2, a lot of that dovetails right into Shay's presentation about early literacy. Are you going to be able to utilize funds and maybe speed up the process?
Mm-hmm. It's included under Goal 4.
Okay.
So let me jump back a little bit. So it talks about resources and professional development for early literacy and equity, and that's specifically aligned with the work around Tier 1 instruction that Shay talked about this evening.
Okay, I'm speaking for myself now, but I would like to see the 5-year timeline shortened. If that means additional funds or employment, whatever it takes, I would like. 5 years is too long. And we've been battling our achievement gap for at least the last 5 years I've been looking at it. We continue to have our students struggle, those that are struggling.
Point noted. Thank you. We will take that back to the drawing board and go from there.
So I'll just make one comment as well, just to kind of expand on what Trustee Maher is saying. I'd ask this in the communication, and I think it'd be great for you to kind of elaborate for the benefit of the public that connection that we're kind of talking about, the intervention specialists, and how, looking at the data from the DIBELS and letters and how that can help support with Goal 4, what Trustee Maher is talking about in terms of how the intervention specialists can really help with our struggling students. So maybe you could just kind of share a little bit more about that plan. I think it's like you're highlighting under Goal 4.
So the integration specialists, the work of the integration specialists?
Yeah, just in general, how they work in, or the professional,
Yeah.
the
The
experts.
way the funding, because the intervention specialists are funded from multiple sources, including LCAP, and as Steve said earlier, through PPIE, and they're also funded through federal title dollars and general fund. So their funding comes from a variety of resources. And with that, we can have flexibility. And I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are using this funding in particular to increase and improve services for those students. When we multi-fund a project such as our integration specialists and our intervention specialists, they can work with students who are maybe above our benchmark goals, or who need additional resources and support. They can also provide support for professional development, as the intervention specialists are doing and the integration specialists have done. Trustee Carrion spoke to that earlier, I believe in the evening, around how we turned right around and provided all this professional development thanks to our integration specialists. So having those multiple funding sources for some of these actions and services gives us that flexibility around the work that they do, and so they're able to provide coaching and support for teachers as well as direct services to students.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a really good clarification. And I just would like to reiterate that bullet point about the resources and professional development for the early literacy and equity to just, I also concur that, as much training and support that we can provide for our staff and teachers to help with our disproportionate students that are struggling, I think is imminent. We really need to focus on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
If it's all right, I'd like to really quickly respond to what Trustee Maher said. I think that the shortening of the 5-year plan is a good goal to try to have, but there's a reason that it's taking that long, so we should be careful when we're evaluating what kind of things we're cutting or what kind of compromises we're making to try to get to a shorter plan, and what kind of overtime we might be if we try to get to that. Essentially, if we try to go 3 years and then we make the sort of compromises that cause us to have worse quality and go all the way to 5 years. So we should be careful about that.
Point taken. I just wanted, for the public's benefit, this is a public hearing, and Mr. Gannon, are we still, we do not have any public comment on the item, but for folks watching at home, I really do appreciate the presentation was very clear, and the slide deck is great, but in the last page of the slide deck are the links to the actual LCAP, and in there are the the expenditure tables that tell you exactly how much dollars we are going to be spending from which sources, how much we receive in supplemental dollars that are generated by our unduplicated students. And so that's really the presentation is a great explanation of the why and the where we want to go, and the actual LCAP expands on that by telling you the details of how we plan to get there and what resources we're going to use to do it. So I encourage everyone who is interested in these topics to take a look at those links. You can see the budget overview for parents that Dr. Van de Kamp mentioned that tells you, basically the dollars that are in the upcoming LCAP, as well as the dollars that were received and spent in our learning continuity plan of this year. And also the annual update that goes back to 2019-20. So a lot of work went into this document, and like I said, I think that the slide deck and the presentation is great, really, really great. But for those details, you really want to go into the links on the additional resources page on the last part of the presentation. I don't have any further comments, and since we don't have any public comment, that will conclude the public hearing on the first read of our 2021-2024 Local Control Accountability Plan. Are there any final comments by the trustees? All right, we will look forward to this coming back to us on the 24th for approval. Thank you guys so much. I think this is one of the best put together plans we've seen. It's just really clear and aligned, and again, the overarching goals in the presentation were great. So do the board wish to take a little bit of a break, or shall we keep on going and folks can come and go as they see fit? Yeah, okay, we're pushing on through. All right, 12.5 we just finished. Now to item 12.6, another public hearing. This is the public hearing report and discussion on our 2021-22 budget. Mr. Shikolasami.
As we have had to really work hard, with a lot of changing data and information coming from the state and one-time monies. And so, it's been challenging, but we put this together. We'll go through kind of some of the key highlights, some of the issues that we're dealing with and the assumptions, and some of the one-time dollars that we have in the budget, as well as some key issues that are right now under discussion at the state with the state budget. The kind of want to remind everyone that last year this time we were sitting and having discussions about a budget that looked much bleaker. We were looking at significant cuts. Again, we were in the same situation that a governor had proposed 10% cuts across the board, and legislature that was pushing back, and where we ended up was a 0% COLA, which we still had to make cuts. Our budget for 2021 included significant reductions, and we really didn't know what the out years would look like. Our out years had, again, significant reductions planned in them. And through a strong economic recovery, and now we are looking at a robust cost of living adjustment at 5.07, we're starting to dig ourselves out of that hole that we were looking at next year. We were looking at last year. Additionally, as we look at that robust cost of living, unfortunately, there are things that are eroding away at it, and we'll go and discuss that. In addition, the pandemic has caused some shifts in our enrollment. We were looking at steady and increasing enrollment with our demography reports, and now it is a different situation. The pandemic dollars have been helpful, and they'll continue being helpful, and we have made sure to spend the money and to help our students and to help our staff, ensuring safety and bringing our students back to school. And we'll continue doing that with helping with learning recovery. However, they do pose significant challenges organizationally, as there are time constraints on those dollars. The budget that is proposed does meet the requirements for the state, the 3% reserve, and do provide the district financial stability for the out years. The first slides here, I just want to comment. Thanks, Joan. You caught a couple clerical errors there, and I highlighted the corrections there. This is a variance report, and so at the second interim, which was back in mid-March, we updated the budget, And so as we're developing our budget, the proposed budget for 21-22, we do an estimated actuals that looks at where we're headed in this fiscal year. In September, we'll bring you the unaudited actuals, which will show the actual closing of those books. And so we are looking, between the second interim and the estimated actuals, we are looking at receiving additional pandemic dollars. And so those have been recorded under, let me just kind of shift this so I can get my little laser pointer. The one-time pandemic dollars, and then we do also record our donations and other funds that come in as they are received. And so that does increase our estimated actuals in terms of our revenues for this fiscal year. In terms of the expenditures, as compared to the second interim, we are looking at seeing some savings in our salaries and benefits, mainly through either positions that we're not able to fill and also some reduced sub-cost that we were able to achieve during the pandemic. We did see some shifting of costs and reallocation from books and supplies into, as you can see, increased costs in services and operating, as well as potentially some contracted services that were required for positions that couldn't be filled. In a net, there is a change in our estimated actuals from second interim. However, we still see a net operating deficit of about $767,000. So now looking forward into some of the key budget assumptions moving forward. And so one of the key driving factors in our funding is our enrollment, and through the enrollment, based on our average daily attendance, we then get funded based on that. However, you'll see both in 2021 and 21-22, our funding is at about $14,367 for those 2 years. Those 2 years are being held harmless at our ADA for 19-20. And that was because of the pandemic. Both this year has significantly been impacted by the pandemic, and there was a hold harmless year of 21-22. In 2021, we've seen a drop of about 400 students from prior year, and these next 3 years are our demographers' projections, and those demographers' projections come to an ADA based on about 97% attendance down here. However, the funding is based on the higher of the 2 years. So if we are in declining enrollment in 22-23, we'll receive funding based on 21-22 ADA. And the same thing goes for the prior. So you can see that this is a significant drop of about 400 students and then another 100 here. And so each 100 students is about $1 million of loss of revenue. And so we're hoping that the students are going to come back and we can recapture that, but that's the best information we have. As of right now, these are the numbers, and these are about a week or two old, that of enrollment in our kindergarten, TK through 5th grade. And you can see that that the classes are transferring pretty much at their current levels, a little students more, a little students less, as they matriculate up. However, our TK, kindergarten, and 1st grade are the grades that are much softer than even the current year and previous years. And so we're hoping that between now and August 10th, when the students return, that our enrollment will pick up in these grades, because these are the grades that will significantly help our overall long-term enrollment. This is a graphical representation of how the hold harmless will impact our funding. So you can see this is a sample district that is being funded based on their 1920 enrollment, ADA. But then when it comes to 2022-23, they're going to lose this amount of funding because they were being funded on the 1920 level. And so at PUSD, we've been trying to anticipate this, and so over both last year, this year, and looking into the next years, we're trying to make sure that we right-size our staffing so that we are incrementally addressing this enrollment issue and not waiting until the end to have to make reductions. This is a lot of information on this sheet, but I do want to point out a few factors. These are the budget assumptions that we've used. What you'll see here is the estimated cost of living. And so last year, although there was a statutory COLA, we did receive nothing. And so those dollars are not being recaptured back with the mega COLA. The mega COLA is providing us more money in 21-22, but those lost dollars are not captured back. In the out years, we are seeing COLAs of about 2.5% to 3%. The local control funding formula provides a base grant. These are last year's base grants. Then we have the cost of living adjustment, and then that becomes the new base grant. So for K3, and you add the adjustment that they do for the grade span, we receive about $8,934 per student. And then for all the way to high school, which there's about $10,000 per student. So that is the base grant that all school districts receive in California. We then receive additional supplemental for students in the unduplicated count, 20%, and concentration. Our district does not receive concentration grants, but we do receive supplemental, and those are the dollars that we use for those specific students to help them to close the achievement gap. The couple other key assumptions in here is we have salary increases year over year due to our salary schedule, and so that's about a 1.5% increase. The other cost increases that are going on is pension through the STRS and PERS program, and you can see those rates in this bottom here. And so this year we were at 16.15. At this point in the May revise, we were advised that it would go to 16.92 and large jumps out in 22, 23, and then keeping it at 19%. And you can see the CalPERS system is projected to go from 20%. So for every dollar that we pay our employees, we're paying the pension system in CalPERS almost 21 cents, and that's projected to go all the way to 27 cents per dollar. The other area that is a pandemic-related impact is the unemployment insurance rate. So although schools did not lay off employees similarly to the private industry, we were notified that we would have to increase per employee from 0.05, which was almost negligible, to 1.23. So that's about will cost the district about $1.5 million if this is if this plan moves forward that the governor has in front of us. So there's a lot of good news, but then you can see how some of these issues impact us. Again, we did include some of the key items in the governor's revise that would help us, including special education, additional dollars related to our SELPA, and also the early education incentives that he had in there. We are starting a virtual academy, so that does have upfront costs associated with getting that virtual academy going and staffed. And so hopefully that will also help with the enrollment challenges that we're having, either to attract, retain, enrollment within the district and also from some of our surrounding districts who find this program to be attractive to them. This over here is the proposed budget revenue. So we are looking at about $180 million. Of that, about 32.5 are restricted revenues. So these are revenues that are coming in from either the federal or state for specific programs, mainly in special education or are grant related. Both the LCFF and the other state funding account for 97% of our revenues. And although we have a strong property tax in Pleasanton, it doesn't equate to providing us additional dollars beyond that state guarantee. So that's really critical. A lot of times we think strong property taxes translate to more dollars, and while that might be true for some community-funded districts, that is not the case in most school districts. I'm trying to see. So again, our local revenues in the budget right now is basically PPIE and some of the known grants that we have. That throughout the year, as we receive additional donations through our boosters and PTA, those will get recorded, and correspondingly there'll be expenditure increases as well. The proposed adopted budget expenditures is about $185 million. Again, as typical to most school districts, about 85% of that is for salaries and benefits. This year, particularly because of the pandemic dollars, the total restricted expenditures of that 185, about 63 million of it are restricted. Again, that it goes to our special education program, our routine restricted maintenance to ensure our facilities are maintained, and then the rest of it is those pandemic dollars that are also restricted. We are looking about a deficit spending about 5.5 million, but some of that is restricted because of the carryover from the current fiscal year. This budget doesn't include, it includes the regular salary increases, but doesn't include additional negotiated salary increases that are engaged in right now. In terms of the staffing breakdown, we have about an equivalent of 1,237 full-time positions. We have included some of the right sizing and the virtual academy in there, and additional needs in special education. It does include the known new staffing in the restricted grant programs, but it doesn't include, these numbers don't include the additional teachers or paraeducators or others that we will hire with the ELOG in person. We have placeholders in the budget. We have put the money in the budget, but we haven't yet detailed out, is it going to be 5 FTE, 3 FTE? The ones that we knew we included in here. And so you can see that between certificate management and classified management, we're very much a lean organization and in line with other organizations of the similar size. Okay, this is where I try to explain where the money comes in and how much of it is available in terms of our additional needs and expenditures. So again, we're driven very much by our staffing cost, and year to year, our costs increase, and they increase through step and column, through pension programs, through other inflationary type of expenditure increases. It could be supplies, utilities, insurance, and again, special education costs on a regular basis do go up. Our ability to pay for those additional costs really is driven by the additional new dollars that we get. And we get those dollars mainly in PUSD through the cost of living adjustments that comes in the LCFF formula. That is our main income source in PUSD. There are other districts that may have other income sources that are significant, like parcel taxes and or other sources, leasing property and so forth, so on. But for us, it is really the LCFF formula. So in 21-22, we're looking at a nice, robust cost of living adjustment. However, once you start factoring in the salary increases that are built into our salary schedule, the additional unemployment insurance that we have to pay, the additional pension costs that we have, the additional contribution to special education, and additional programs that we want to support, you see the erosion of those available dollars on an ongoing basis. So that is the challenge that we face, not only PUSD, but all school districts in California. And that's why the legislature and others are trying to figure out ways where they can give us more ongoing dollars to have to be able to do the things we need to do. This slide right here, it basically shows where we are with our reserves. Again, we do have a healthy reserve, but because our deficit spending, we need that reserve to be able to manage our out-year deficit spending. So you can see this year it's at 7%. Next year it'll drop down to about 6.5%. And then in 22-23, once we start getting hit with the enrollment challenges, then we'll do more deficit spending. However, you can see we are above that 3% in that third year out, which is a good thing. Moving on to the pandemic-related funding, these are all the different funding sources that we have received or will receive. The first 5 are the ones that the dollars we've received to date. And if you remember at the beginning, it was really dealing with the pandemic, making sure our students were safe, and then getting them back to school. And we achieved those goals, and we ensured that the funds were spent on those safety and on our students and on our staff. And so to date, we've spent about $7 million. The two big funds that remain is the ESSER 3 grant, which we've talked about utilizing to extend some of the programs out further. And then we have the ELOG grant, which the board has approved a plan for, and the in-person grant, which also will help support many of the programs that we want to move forward. The board approved the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant, and we've submitted that plan to the state, and that's that $9.35 million. Again, these dollars are at work today, and they're at work today with our enrichment programs, with our extended summer school programs, the hiring of additional counselors, psychologists, and so on. So we are spending the dollars and getting the help out to our students and the needs that we have out there. The dollars for the in-person instruction grant, this is what we have, again, these broad general categories that we've looked at. We've put dollars associated with them in the budget for next year. And again, it's to make sure our schools are safe, ensure facility improvements continue, and then salaries for staff providing in-person instruction, and then that goes towards the substitutes, cohorts, psychologists, resource specialists, tutoring programs, teachers for intervention, after-school programs, high school sections, so on and so forth. So there's a lot in here to help our students, and additional nursing to ensure the schools are safe as well. It's about $4.4 million. Okay, so I'm going to shift away to some of the takeaways, and this has become my, this 23-page document really translates what the governors may revise is to what the legislature wants to do, and hopefully by the end of June, we'll have an enacted budget that will kind of give us a roadmap as to where we are on the state's budget. So the governor has proposed, with a strong economy, to do a lot. However, the legislature has some other plans as well. So some of the key things that we're looking at is where in that state unemployment insurance, how much help is the state going to provide to bring that down. The legislature is looking at reducing the 1.23 to 2 years of a 0.5% increase, so that's a significant support. We're tracking the legislature's proposal to provide ongoing funding, increased special education ongoing funding of about $850 million. So that's a significant, it would be a significant reduction of pressure on the contribution levels. And so that one we're tracking. The other critical one that we're tracking ongoing is providing about, I think, $2 to $3 billion of pension relief, buying down some of those high pension costs for the next 4 years. So there are a lot of other grants and programs. Some of them are one-time, some of them are more categorical in nature, but those are some of the significant ones that would truly kind of help us in the ongoing effort. So we're going to look at that. The other one I should mention is the governor has proposed, and the legislature is also supporting, although just giving a little bit extended time, is universal kindergarten and phasing that in over a 3 to 4 year period, and providing some dollars for facility improvements as well. So there is a lot in this budget. It's sometimes dizzying to keep track of how much they are throwing at the school systems in this year. But we'll track that and hopefully have some greater clarity by the end of the month. I do want to highlight a few items in our other funds. The district does manage the adult education. That fund, we look forward to a healthy fund next year in that area. The cafeteria fund, which is our child nutrition fund, we did better than we expected, and so if you remember last year, we were talking of having to contribute from the general fund upwards of $1 million, but with the work that the team did and with the federal reimbursements, we're doing better this year. And going into next year, it is all meals for all students are going to be free. So it's a universal program. And so we don't exactly know how that all is going to shake out. We do have a small contribution from the general fund into that program, but we think we'll be okay there. The fund that we're monitoring and we have some concerns about is the enterprise fund, and we've been talking about it all year long. They used to have about $1 million reserve, and we kept the program going. The program continued. All staff continued. We were able to support our staff through this year by using the funds that had been built up in that reserve. But going into next year, that reserve is gone. And so we have to, we have to get back to normal operations to break even. And the Kids Club is the anchor of that program. They are the largest program. They are the ones who've always had, a backlog of students, and they've been able to generate revenue and keep that program whole. So we are looking at that program, hopefully returning to normalcy. It may need some short-term, early on, support from the general fund to make payroll, but once they get back, they should get back to a normal operation. So that's another area we wanted to highlight. The other funds are doing well. Remember, the Fund 17, those funds are kind of set aside for professional development, and we are drawing that down as we spend money on our SDR PD program. We also have the music program that we're drawing down as well based on those grant dollars that were provided. We moved all our OPEB dollars to Fund 71. Those monies are slowly being transferred to that trust fund, but it will be reported to you as Fund 71, and you'll start to see that fund grow as more money goes into the CalPERS CERT fund. You'll see an annual growth. We'll be providing the board reports with that as well, as the CERT fund does much better than the county treasury. And then finally, we do have some dollars in our Fund 40 for capital projects as well. The other funds, we have the Sycamore Fund that sits there with the sale of that property and as well. And then the deferred maintenance, we don't contribute to it. There's some dollars in there. The main fund there that we look at for facility improvement is our Measure I-1, and we are projecting continuing a significant and robust continuation of our projects. If the program does continue as they're projecting, we might have to look at the next round of bond sales in winter or spring of 2022. So with that, I just wanted to conclude that, again, we are in a much better position than last year. However, there are challenges. Even with significant one-time money comes to its own challenges. We'll bring back this budget for adoption, and we do expect that due to the significant changes that are being proposed at the legislative and state level, that we will have to do a 45-day budget. And so we'll be tracking that and bringing that information back. But I'm happy to answer questions, and either I or Tom will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions by the trustees? Mark? No? You look stunned.
Let's make one quick comment.
Yes,
I just
go
wanted
ahead,
to thank
please.
the staff for answering all my questions as I was combing through all the details. I did have a question about, you have on a slide about the proposed pay down of the deferral, but, and then that would only leave the June 2022 would remain. So how much dollar amount does that refer to in the payback?
So the governor's proposal does leave a small deferral, but it would only be a deferral from June to July. So whatever, I think it's maybe $1 billion or something like that. However, it really won't affect school districts that much if he keeps it. The legislature wants to be done with the deferrals, and they want to pay it all and not have to deal with it. But the governor's proposals, it's just a 1 month. It just bridges that fiscal year, so it wouldn't be as a significant impact to schools because you'd get it in July. It just bridges the school year, and it allows the state to do different things with their budgeting.
Okay.
But again, under the legislature's proposal, that would not happen either.
Got it. And then I know I put this in the communication, but for the benefit for the public, I know that there are some potential reductions in staff potentially in the upcoming years, depending on the enrollment, if it continues to decline. Can you explain a little bit for the public how you factored out, I think there was like a number of potentially 4 staff, but how that gets calculated, how you actually determine, because I think you said it was, what was the dollar amount per student loss that we lose? I can't remember.
So it's about, every student we lose is about $10,000. And so we looked at for every 100 students that would go down, we're projecting to kind of right size by 4 FTE. And that's a placeholder. We'd have to see exactly where enrollment is, where the tightening and right sizing needs to happen, how much capacity do we have, is it at the elementaries, is it in the middle schools or high schools, but just to make sure that we were being true to our budget planning. Again, if you're going down enrollment, you need to be making corresponding adjustments in staffing. If you don't do that, then you'll get to a point where, again, it's going to be too late. It's going to be the cuts are going to become harder and harder to make.
So in general, that you're confident that that number, roughly 4, would be enough, but not more than 4, like 5 or 6. But
based on this budget plan, yes. Okay. Yeah. But if we see a different budget, if we see a different scenarios, it will change. But based on the plan that we see, based on the enrollment that we projected, that is our reflection of what those reductions would need to be.
Perfect. And then I just have one last question on Fund Enterprise 63. You are pretty confident that it'll bounce back next year. I know that the bulk of the funds is from Kids Club, but that also affects for STEAM and Horizon. But you're anticipating that the deficits will hopefully get back to normal next year, is in the next couple of years, as you're anticipating?
Yeah. So I just want to be very careful. Kids Club needs to return to normal. To be able to return to normal means that the pandemic type of restrictions and some of those things need to
Sure.
change. I want to caution the board that we don't really know exactly how things will unfold because we are putting significant resources from the district into our own, non-paid, after-school programs. They may be different. They may not be door-to-door like Kids Club, but we still don't know how that dynamic is going to work. But we're assuming a more normal return for Kids Club and demand increasing back up. It may take them a year or two to get to post-pandemic. STEAM has been closer to being, kind of cost neutral. Again, they need to, some of the pandemic type of restrictions are also hopefully going to subside there so they can maximize enrollment. We've talked about Horizon. Horizon has its own particular challenges. And before, when we looked at the entire fund, because Kids Club was very healthy, it balanced out that the total fund would be healthy. However, if Kids Club is starting to kind of get back on its leg and STEAM is starting to do the same thing, if one of those funds does lag and we're not able to bring up enrollment or get our cost and expenditures, revenues and expenditures even up, it will put pressure on that we have to make payroll, and the only fund we have to go to would be the general fund. Some of the other funds we have are restricted in nature, and so I do want to caution the board, if that fund does not break even, the general fund will need to support it.
So just to expand on that comment, I know the state is getting additional funding for early literacy, early childhood funding, and would any of that funding apply for Pleasanton?
Most of those funds are for early childhood programs that are state funded, and our program is really a revenue, people pay, and then we pay our expenses. We're not a state-funded preschool program that would benefit from those dollars.
Okay, great. Thank you. Amazing work, Ahmad. I really appreciate the written analysis, the 18 some pages of analysis and summary, and great presentation. Thank you.
One quick question. So we talked about the ADA reduction of 100, and that being about $1 million. For FTE reduction doesn't come close to covering that $1 million reduction in revenue, right?
Correct, it does. It's more like would be closer to $500,000. So that's part of the challenge, and we'd have to look deeper, and we have to, again, that was kind of like a starting point of a holder, right? We're going to have to look deeper across the board with our staffing.
And just to follow on about the right sizing. So because we have to notice certificated staff by March 15th for the following year, this would mean that any of our existing certificated staff will be employed next year, even if we're engaged in right sizing. It would come in the form of not replacing people who retire, who leave, or could you talk a little bit about how that would happen in the first year, in the near year?
So thank you, President Larson. So we do have staff that are on temporary contracts, and staff that are on temporary contracts starting for the 21-22 school year can be let go if we get into that crisis point. But staff that's on probationary or permanent status, you're correct, that will have to trigger until the March of 2021 for the 22-23 school year. So there is a number of staff that are temporary. This year we had a total of 42 staff members that were temporary status. We don't believe that we will have that number for the 21-22 school year, but that is a group of staff that if we were to get into a crisis point, that we could unfortunately let go. And
just to help people understand how challenging it is, perhaps when you're in declining enrollment, you don't decline by groups of children who are all the same age. So it's not like, oh, we're going to lose 50 students, so that's 2 classes of first graders, you know. So some of the other types, what are some of the other types of solutions? I mean, I can think of things like combo classes, or, you know, there are other types of solutions that districts look at who have to make adjustments like these. I mean, have we started exploring what some of those, since we're now in multiple years of declining enrollment that we really weren't expecting to be in, based on our history, have we started those conversations about what we might be looking at?
Yeah, I'll take it, and then, I mean, you're right. I mean, combo classes is one of the things that we look with student services and ed is where are our openings? How can we shift, you know, and these are hard conversations to have, but if you, for example, look at a grade and throughout the district there's like 180 openings, you have to look a little deeper, see what adjustments do we need to make to tighten things up. Because you're right, kids, and they don't come in nice little packages and nice little neighborhoods and boundaries. And so that is some of the detailed work we've had some discussions on that we've thought about. But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to add too, so as the board knows, we have students who are overflowed. And so we constantly are looking at that scenario. We're in the process, or have been in the process since April, May, of calling parents back to see, you know, from their home school if they would be willing to go back to their home school if they've been overflowed this past year. So those are all the different scenarios that we try to put these pieces together as we see some of the openings. Combo classes, I think we've done just maybe 1 or 2 of those, and that was really out of necessity when we're actually growing in enrollment. Not too long ago, just a couple of years ago, we were really growing pretty quickly during the year, and so we had to make adjustments during the year to accommodate the students that were coming. But combo classes we have done, I think it was only maybe 1 or 2 situations like that over the years since I've been here, but that's a good suggestion too.
One of the other challenges is our collective bargaining agreement, if it's a challenge, because we do have contractual limits to our classes. So in addition to balancing the classes, creating combo classes, we also have to adhere to those limits as well. So there are a number of challenges that we are looking at various scenarios. Again, we are looking to recruit and include hopefully more students in our primary grade levels, as well as with the virtual academy. So we are trying to make some decisions, again, on issuing temporary contracts is one of them. Again, just as a preventive measure if we have to go into that space. But I'm pretty confident that we will have at least a year. We're not going to drastically just make cuts. And that's why it's taking so much planning to make sure that our budget is right sized and our staffing is as well.
So one of the other things I wanted to mention, Joan, if it's okay, is that we're getting the message out that we're reopening schools, and we know we had a lot of families who had children in grades 1K and TK that elected to go to local private preschools because they could enroll their students there full time. So we're hopeful that as they have the understanding that we are going to be back full time 5 days a week, that we'll see some of that enrollment come back. And so, yes, we're looking at a whole bunch of options, but we're also kind of holding our breath a little bit, hoping that some of this other stuff will materialize first so that we don't have to go down the road of releasing teachers yet or building combo classes, all those, none of those things that we want to do.
No, and I understand that, and I certainly am hopeful as well. You know, I just keep back to thinking about what Devansh said about consequences of, you know, one way or another, and you know, we're talking about boundary changes, we're talking about overflow, we're talking about all of these different things, and you know, they all involve moving people's cheese. You know, you've changed stuff, and we want our families to be in our schools, and we want to see our we don't want to see the declining enrollment that we have just seen over this past year or two. And we certainly don't want to see what we are being told by the demographer is likely to happen. So, we want our families back in our classrooms because we believe that's what's best for kids of Pleasanton. So just one of those things that, as we move forward and we're talking about all these other issues, I think it's important for those weighing the consequences of the choices that we have to make and what are some of the other things that we can do and whether or not those are choices that the community would rather make or whether the community would like to help us find other solutions. So just wanted to raise that issue. Any other questions, Mary Jo?
So I still have a question about Enterprise Fund 63. So if this budget is adopted, so does that mean that we will have Horizon for another year?
I believe that staff is working on bringing a report to the board on Horizon, and that decision and those discussions are still in front of us. So that they're kind of separate from each other. We built this budget, and on that it'll come back to kind of a more normal and it'll be balanced. But the issue has to be evaluated on Horizon on its own merit.
Okay, I'm just confused because, again, this is my first time with the budget, and so, but it looks like we're approving next time this budget, correct? And in this budget, it says that Horizon will have $3,000 at the end of the whole fiscal year. So are you going to I'm just confused. Is there going to be a proposal next time? I don't understand.
So I think, Trustee Carry On, we are trying to propose a plan. We are still digesting information both from the stakeholders. We haven't yet prepared a recommendation to the board. Right now we're being tasked to look at various aspects, including the budget, including the future of the program. There's a lot of advocacy that's obviously taking place, but staff is not yet ready to make a recommendation to the board. I know that was stated earlier in the comments, but at this point there is no recommendation prepared.
But a budget is not a commitment. It's not a commitment? No. It's a guess, not a guess.
Yeah,
An educated
guess. And to clarify, we did not know because the discussion on Horizon was in the process. We didn't know which way yet to put it. So we just put a placeholder like it's going to be like cost neutral, but that's not. That depends on a lot of variables, right? So that discussion and those analysis need to be brought forward as to, how do we move forward? What do we need to do? And that discussion needs that. So approving the budget is separate, discussion on Horizon. So
cost neutral could be demonstrated in different ways. So cost neutral means the program derives sufficient resources to pay for itself, or we eliminate the program so there's no expenses. So when you make it cost neutral, you keep those options open. But the board requested a presentation to come back to them, and it's coming back.
I just have one other question, and that's, it seems like you're building a budget with $5.5 million in deficit. Is that normal to build a budget in deficit? Or is there cuts to be made so we don't have that? Or do you expect that the governor is going to come back and there'll be extra money?
Great question. So some of that deficit is in the restricted side. So the restricted side has its own money. It's kind of in that fiscal year we're spending more, but we've carried it from the current year, right? So on the unrestricted side, it's about I can't remember exactly, about 1.8, maybe $1.6 million of deficit spending. The governor's budget is yet to be determined, so we're expecting some of it to come. The other is that's why you have reserves, so that you can absorb some of that and be able not to make steep cuts or reductions, and gives you a little bit of time to kind of work some of those issues out. And so that's why you want to have reserves. You want to be able not to take these quick actions and be able to have a little bit of time. And also it gives us the ability to see exactly where the governor is going to land or where the state is going to land with his budget once it's finalized. But in the long term, goal of the district should be balanced budgets, healthy reserve rates, so that we can be sustainable. These are some issues that we're going to have to work through in the next few years to make sure that we have that long-term stability plan.
All right. Seeing no further comments on this, this was the public hearing and the first read for the 2021-22 budget. Did we end up, no, we did not end up with any public comment on this item, so I'll close the public hearing. And this item will come back to us for a vote at our next meeting on June 24th. It's also close to 10 o'clock, and I'm looking at about 45 minutes, do we think, of additional items? Do you want to say?
The MOT one it's a 35-page PowerPoint.
It says
so-
15 minutes.
Yeah, that might, it's hard to go through that.
So what do you say, 11:30, no later then?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to extend the meeting till 11:30 p.m.
I'll second it.
Does that include closed session too, or is
No.
that after?
No.
Okay, sure.
Let the record reflect that trustee Carry-On voted aye.
Aye. I might get rid.
Aye.
And aye, 5-0, to extend the meeting no later than 11:30. So thank you very much for the budget presentation, Mr. Gray as well. I know you were on high alert back there. Now we'll move on to 12.7. This is a report discussion on maintenance, operations, and transportation. Are you introducing Mr.
Great.
Shikos?
Yes, I will introduce our Director of Operations, Mehdi Rajabzadeh, who's going to go through his presentations within that 15 minutes.
It's really good. Yeah.
Mehdi, are you with us?
Mehdi, we can't hear your voice.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, Pleasanton Unified Board of Trustees, the Cabinet, my colleagues, and the community. I am pleased to present my second annual report for the maintenance, operations, and transportation teams. The agenda is as follows: organizational structure, accomplishments, future plans and projects, and next steps. I now ask our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Mr. Sheikhul Islami, to present the organizational chart.
Great, thank you, Mehdi. So just want to kind of highlight that this organizational chart for the business services includes our reorganization. And so within that, you'll see the fiscal services and now oversees both the fiscal budget and also our underneath that will also be our purchasing department as well. And so our coordinator of purchasing will now be reporting to Tom Gray. Our technology area, we will are transitioning to a chief technology officer that will oversee our entire technology team. We have our director of child services will continue overseeing the child nutrition services, and under our director of operations is now going to be also, in addition to the maintenance, operations, custodial grounds, we're also including the warehouse under that position. And then our executive director of facilities and construction will continue managing the bond program. So just a little high-level overview of all of those groups. And today we're focusing, Mehdi will be focusing on the operational aspects of this department. Please continue.
Great, thank you. First, I would like to give an overview of the structure in the MOT department. MOT organization consists of about 9 individuals, including 9 substitutes in various departments. The structure is about 12 maintenance team members with 6 shortages, 8 in grounds with 3 shortages, 54 in custodial, plus 9 subs with 3 shortages, office team of 3, and warehouse of 4. Funding for the MOT comes from 3 resources. 3% routine restricted maintenance, which Mr. Sheikhul Islami already conveyed some message about that earlier in the discussions. 3% routine restricted maintenance, which covers maintenance and grounds. Then a special education fund for bus and transportation. And finally, unrestricted fund, which covers the expenses such as custodial, water, and electricity. For unrestricted fund, there's about $4.4 million. Let me go to the next slide. $4.4 million dedicated to salaries and $5 million to water, electricity, and disposals. For the restricted fund, about $3.2 million allocated to salaries and $2.2 million for general maintenance and materials. The work structure is comes in a variety of forms. As work order, which are all for repair, as projects for new projects and new items, planned improvements, which is dedicated and announced by the district itself, emergency repairs, and preventive maintenance. With that, I would like to present our accomplishments in the 2020 and 2021. Before doing that, I'd like to mention that on every one major and crucial change in the operations has been changing the culture to a service-oriented organization. Every team member has this mindset that what we do is serving a bigger purpose. This refinement and shift in mentality did not come lightly. We all have come to a great level and sense of taking full responsibility and accountability. In 2020-2021, a lot of efforts were undertaken with all team members to battle COVID-19. These activities ranged from cleaning and disinfecting the classrooms and offices, in addition to the routine schedules, to installing about 800 air purifiers, sourcing and installing MERV 13 filters, distributing PPE, marking the grounds for 6 feet distancing, and securing and distributing the most effective disinfecting material. On another 2 environmentally conscientious fronts, we removed 4 chemicals from all sites and replaced them with a single EPA-approved hydrogen peroxide-based material with better and improved results. We also dispatched several hundred blue bins for classroom recycling and expanded our collection carts and provided training. We continued our contracted precision concrete cutting and removed trip hazards from 6 schools, with Dunland Elementary School being the 7th and in the final planning phase of starting the project. These are some of the improvements that we have done for trip hazard mitigation. Several hydration stations were installed in various schools, and a few more are planned for a couple of schools. 2 shade structures and 3 marquees were installed in the schools. We fully installed Pelican energy management systems to control exterior lights through Wi-Fi. We also installed Pelican stats at 4 schools, Moore, Valley View, Fairlands, and Walnut Grove. As I was preparing this report, 2 more schools were completed by facilities team, Hart and Light Extent. With this technology, you will be prepared to establish a comfort zone, save energy, and monitor and address the problems. We also took an important step and cleaned all gutters across the district, which were not cleaned for quite a long time. These are the marquees. This is at Moore. This is at Pleasanton Middle School. And this one at Vintage Hills. Last year, PUSD and the City of Pleasanton formed a team, and we visited and evaluated all 3 middle school gyms and created an action item list. Throughout the year, we have faced many plumbing issues, and our team, with the help from very valued contractors who help us as our extended team, were able to repair them in a short time frame. Many small to medium-sized renovations were performed across various sites, improvements to restrooms, locker rooms, storage rooms, and classrooms and offices. And these are some of the examples of the, this is a storage room, and these are the bathrooms at Pleasanton Middle School, which was completely renovated. And these are locker rooms and bathrooms at Harris Park. In transportation, we were able to hire a qualified mechanic. As you know, we were without a mechanic for a year and a half. We added 2 new buses to the fleet and retired 2 older problematic units. We have also taken a broader approach to retire the older cars across the district and plan on acquiring some new vans and trucks for our support teams. Our team in ground has been working diligently to keep all sites clean and organized. They have worked during the week and weekends to beautify the schools and the district office. We have also acquired new mowers and other tools to facilitate the work for our team. In addition to field renovation projects in various sites, we successfully launched the first community cricket club, which was established at Alisal Elementary School in partnership with sorry, let me step back just a bit. This is our team members that are doing the weekend work actually in all various schools. In partnership with Cricket Club for Cubs. This is actually the Mr. Maher in the center is throwing a ball as the opening ceremony for the program. And these are the units that we have purchased for the cricket club, a mower and also a container. We spent about $122K last year for 3 services at all different locations. In operations with the support from 4 schools hosted the 22 elections, and the county was extremely satisfied with the level of support they received from the operations. A major effort which was undertaken with the support from the facilities department was painting of 3 schools, Amador, Vintage Hills, and Pleasanton Middle School. This effort will continue to be expanded to other schools during the summertime. And finally, playground structure renovations at 2 schools, Fairlands and Vintage Hills, got initiated for the summer implementation. And this is also a renovation which was done at Harvest Park Robotics Classroom, and all the monitors were installed on the walls. Some upcoming projects are revamping the fire alarm system, installing CO2 monitors on all Pelican stats. Currently, there are about 50% of them don't have CO2 monitors, and we are installing them as we speak. And resealing the blacktops and the parking lots. Our goal and plans for the upcoming year are developing a preventive and corrective maintenance plan, continuing with the action plans from our joint meeting with the city on the middle school gyms, and evaluating other play structures, just to name a few. Some of our challenges are related to resources. Why this has quite impacted our teams and our ability to focus on preemptive maintenance rather than addressing ongoing problems and issues. However, even with these limited resources, our teams have been able to show their dedication through continuous customer service and attention to details. Our trust is that with ingraining a stronger culture of how can it be helped, as it is the motto of business services, a preventive maintenance focus rather than firefighting the problems, improved communications, and skilled and mindful team members, we will be able to make a significant positive impact on the lives of thousands of people and be proud of it. We are thankful to the Board of Trustees, Cabinet, colleagues, and the community for giving us the opportunity to serve and make a difference. Thank you so much.
That was a wonderful presentation.
Yeah, I stand corrected.
I mean, I'm going to leave aside the content and the work for just a minute and just say, that's how you give a presentation with a slide deck. You don't read off the slide deck, and you don't talk about every single item. You hit the high notes. And what high notes there were to hit. You and your team have done a phenomenal job. We're just, we came out of the Great Recession with so little focus on all of the things you've been talking about. And there was so much to do when you got here. And so this is just really wonderful to hear and see as we're out in the community and our parents and our staff are noticing the differences and feeling the differences about the customer service level. So really, really terrific. Mark, I can tell you're
Well,
ready
no,
to
I
go.
mean, I think you said it really well. I mean, this is we had some advantages in that we didn't have everybody on campus at the same time, but this is way more than I can ever remember happening in a given year. And so kudos, Mehdi, to your team, Ahmad, and so forth. I mean, we talked about painting and those types of things for so long, and oh man, finally getting to those things. But that's great. I did have a question, though, and that's around the gyms. So we had identified, or everybody's identified this needs with our gyms, especially the large gym at the Amador. And so I don't know if any conclusions have come from the review you guys did on that.
I think I will leave that one for Ahmed to respond.
I'll take that one, Mehdi.
Yes, thank you.
So the gyms that we were evaluating with operations were the joint uses that we have with the city. So that's at the middle schools. With the facilities and construction team, we have had discussions about looking at those and looking at their needs as we look at our long-term updating our facility master plan. So John and his team are putting a plan together to do an update on the facility master plan, and that will then do a deeper dive on some of those facilities and what those needs are and our next steps. And we hope to engage that deeper conversation when it comes to the Amador gym or the theater and other large, complex, projects that we'll need to undertake.
Just want to thank Mehdi and Ahmed. Ahmed, before this last couple of years, as Mark stated, most of us were a little sad and embarrassed about our schools. And now I can honestly say that I'm starting to feel proud about them. I'm starting to like the things I'm seeing, and I'm just amazed at what you're doing. So thank you very, very much.
Right, you're welcome, and I could not do it without the team and Mehdi's leadership.
So I just wanted to make one comment. I wanted, in addition to what the other trustees have already mentioned, I wanted to thank you for being adaptive to our changing demographics of the community. I absolutely love the new cricket field that's been established at Alice Isle. I've been, and I'm sure other board members have too, been invited to go out there and check it out, and just really applaud the district for changing with the times, and really applaud all the other work that's being done and that's already been stated. But I just wanted to take special note of that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I love that we're using the off time, the pandemic, to make a lot of these changes. So that was kudos to you guys. Great job.
We don't have any other comments. Thank you so much for the presentation, and look forward to updates on that planning list. It looks fantastic.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mehdi. All right. Now it's John's turn. 12.8, possible action on agreement with Westside Landscaping and Concrete for the preschool play yard at Harvest Park Middle School.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Haglund, Cabinet, and the community. Both, let's see, tonight we're bringing to the board this long-awaited project that recently received an IEEP grant that has allowed this project to proceed. Both Shay Galetti and I will be speaking about this project, myself from the facilities perspective and Shay from the educational perspective. Tonight, while we're requesting the approval of the agreement for the contractor, there is much more to this project. Early this year, our facilities and construction team met with the Harvest Park site administrator and their members of their staff, the student support services, Shay, and also the architect, HKIT. The goal was to design a preschool play area to accommodate students with disabilities within the requirements of the IEEP grant funding. It's hard to say that, 3 E's. The additional meetings were held to confirm the scope of work and specialty playground structures, and then the project was submitted to DSA and was publicly bid. Final DSA approval is near, and the contractor will start construction once DSA's approval is received. So now I'll turn it over to Shay, and she can say her piece, and then I can also go into the playground structure over here.
Thank you, John. I will make it quick. We call it the IEP grant. It's an early inclusive practices grant that we are with it as part of a consortium with the Alameda County Office of Ed. And the goal of the grant is to increase inclusive playgrounds and facilities for children. And as John said, this has been a long-awaited project for our Harvest Park preschool staff and families. Every effort was made to include them in the planning process. I mean, even down to the type of plants and grass that is going to be a part of this playground. And so we are just extremely excited. We know we have a couple obstacles to get through with DSA, but we are hoping in the near future we'll be able to do a ribbon cutting and have everyone out there at the new playground.
And then just going over the graphic that we have here, this is the play area, and it depends on how you look at it, the front of the campus or the back side of the school. We are putting a little bit of new fencing in there. We're doing some ADA upgrades to concrete work. We're also enlarging the area, the upper area, which has the play structure. There you go. And it enlarges it a little to the left, but it also ties it together with the lower areas, which now will be accessible ADA-wise. And it also will have a trike path, which goes around the upper area there. We've enlarged the width of the right-hand side of the walkway near the building to the right. And so that will be an upper level trike area. And then there's a walking path that goes down counterclockwise, top of the page, down and around, and then converts to a little sensory path. And so there's different textures in the walkway, and there's also different planting that is around the area. Like Shay had mentioned, there's a lot of discussion that was on the types of plants. And so we've tried to minimize any type of hazardous type things or any prickly things and things like that. So going to the next slide. This is an image. There'll be 2 of these images. This shows the upper playground and that they have accessible features throughout suitable for the preschool level. This same consultant, Spec, has done installations at the Dublin Center, the public area there. So they're well accustomed to accommodating for special needs students. The next slide over here is just the other view of it. Highlights to this, it has over pretty much to the right, kind of orangey, it's a little kind of rocking sitting area that you can put a wheelchair in. It's actually a really interesting little feature. The wheelchair cannot get fully up to the top to go down to the slide on the left-hand side there, but on the lower slot, the lower level play area, which Ahmad, if you could go back 2 slides to the site plan again. which is toward the top of the page, there is a slide right there that is very interesting. I didn't have a graphic for that, but it allows a wheelchair student to use that. They have to dismount there, and then someone helps them at the base of it. And so it's really a neat little feature. And we've gone through this very tightly with the staff and Shay and the group. So I'll just wrap up then. The recommended action would be that the administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the agreement with Westside Landscaping and Concrete, Inc. for the play yard at Harvest Park.
Questions?
I just have one question. When's the anticipated start for this project once it's approved?
Once it's approved, it'll literally be days, if not no more than about a week. We have to give them a notice to proceed, but we can't do that until DSA approval. We're working feverishly. I mean, literally, there's a meeting with the architect and DSA tomorrow, and then we expect DSA approval probably sometime mid next week. That's our goal. So probably a week to a week and a half is what we would anticipate construction to start.
Well, that's super exciting because I live right in that neighborhood, and we'll be excited to see the work getting started if this is approved. One other quick question. So will that affect any of the traffic, residentials on Northway or Valley for the construction work, or where will that be? Where will they have all the equipment and all that? Would that just be like in the Harvest Park parking lot?
It would be in the parking lot, very likely. The school's not going to have summer school, and so there's plenty of room in there. Currently, the HVAC project that's going on in the existing buildings, the contractor has a cordoned off area there as well. So there's ample space for that. Traffic, they should be coming in off of the Valley, and so there's always a little bit of traffic, but this is a relatively small job, and it would be isolated.
Okay, just two other points. How long is the anticipated timeline for the project to take as well? Will it be ready for the school year?
We're working on that as well because of this delay of DSA. We do have plans. I've talked to Gigi, in fact, the vice principal, today. We talked about having the school use, if necessary, for the students, where they housed them before during the cohort time frame where they could not use the play structure. So they use that other little playground area. So we'll work through those details, but we're looking at a 6 to a maximum 8 week time frame. And it is a very high priority project in our eyes. And so we have a backup plan, and we've been coordinating tightly with the school site.
Cool, and kudos to the design. I absolutely love it. So thank you. Those are my questions and comments.
You're welcome.
Seeing no others, I'll seek a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
All right. Trustee Carrion.
I love it. Aye.
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 And I as well. 5-0. Motion carries to approve the West Side Landscaping and Concrete preschool play yard at Harvest Park Middle School. Thank you so very much, and it is really exciting, and it's a tight timeline, but you guys have worked miracles so far. I have high hopes. 12.9, this is report, oops, what? Sorry.
Before you go, I did want to put a plug in for the city as well. This property is, the one corner of it is actually in the park, and we've been working successfully with the city to be able to, utilize that piece and have an agreement in place. And so the city has been very, been very cooperative and with David and the team over there.
Oh, that's great. It's great to hear. 12.9, report, discussion, and possible action on Resolution 2020-2021.30, which is closing Fund 20 and Fund 64. Mr. Gray?
Yeah, good evening. Once in a while, we identify funds that are no longer needed or their activity has changed. So the district would like to close 2 funds as outlined in Resolution 2021.30. These funds no longer exist as their activities have changed. Fund 20, as you know, we have shifted those funds to Fund 71 for our OPED liability, and Fund 64 is more appropriately accounted for in the Adult Ed Fund 11. So we propose that we close these two funds to streamline our operations.
Are there any questions?
Is there a reason why they say 200 and 640 in the resolution?
Tom, you have a 3-digit code for the fund on the resolution versus on the agenda item. I don't think it makes a difference, does it?
The 3-digit code is the escape code versus the state fund code.
Got it. I'll move. Oh. I'll move approval of resolution.
Whoa.
2020-2021.30, closing funds 20 and 64.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve it. I heard Mary Jo's
Aye.
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 And aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. 1210, report discussion of possible action on agreements for legal services with Fagan, Friedman, and Fullfrost, Dennis Wolliver Kelly, Atkinson, Adelson, Arroyo, Rude, and Romo, and Yuri Calderon for 2021-22.
Great. I'll tag team this one with Amy. We're going to try to keep it moving pretty quick. Amy, chime in whenever you like. The purchasing department with Amy and Janet, and also with some support from Lanita and Rochelle, put this RFP out in March for legal services that would cover all the areas that the district engages in. The district received 7 responses to the RFP. We put together a broad team of the district, which also included Board Trustee Maher, and we reviewed these. There was an oral interview, and it was a long day. I won't forget that day because it was a tiring one. I don't know. Maybe some people like to listen to lawyers, but it was really an important process. And through that, the recommendation is that the district have 4 firms moving forward. That's Fagan, Friedman, and Fullfrost, DWK, and Atkinson, Allison, Loyal, Rude, and Romo, and also Calderon Law. And so some of those firms are currently being used by the district, and others we use less or for specific areas. And so based on that, the purchasing team looked at what our estimated cost would be going into the next year based on our historical needs, and has developed those agreements with each of the law firms, and for a not to exceed amount that's been recommended, $400 for F3 and about $100K for each of the other law firms. And so we're seeking an action item to move those contracts forward. Amy, did I miss anything?
No, you did perfect.
Okay. Amy asked me to she said, Ahmad, just steamroll this one. Not steamroll it, but
That's not a good choice of words.
to forward this one out of, she knew it was going to be
Sure,
a
Amy
long.
said that on her way out. All right, any questions by the board? All right.
It's a lot of money. Is there anything we could do to cut costs?
But that is a good question. No, that is a very good question. And I think that I know that for myself and for everyone here, that we always look at other resources first. Like how can I get that information that I need, right? And there's a lot of webinars and a variety of information areas. So that's one of the key things that I know that everyone on this team does. Secondly, you want to actually save the district by asking the right questions at the right time, because sometimes you could be penny wise, pound foolish, in that you don't ask the questions and then you create a more of issue. So again, being strategic, being thoughtful, we talk about it all the time. And I think that this year, particularly this year, we've had some challenging situations with the pandemic. And so I don't think was a typical year. The district has and I think I shared the data, has been really kind of reducing our legal expenditures over the years. I think the data that I pulled in those out year, in like 5 or 6 years ago, the district was very high in its legal expenses. And so there's been a lot of strides made in the special ed department, the HR department, the superintendent's department to really tighten things up. And I think that this particular year we were challenged on those sensitive topics. But I'm hopeful that we can continue the vigilance, continue smart use of legal services, so on and so forth. I don't know if our other colleagues would want to add to that.
I just have one quick question, Ahmad. The recommendation of the 4 different firms, is there any specialty that one firm addresses over the others and why you have 4? It's just, I apologize for not asking that ahead of time, but it's just something I was thinking about as you were talking.
No, that is a great question, and through several of the firms have full service. So 3F, DWK, and Addison, I'm not going to give them all. They're a full service type of firms. Caltron is very specific to certain areas. However, within that, based on historical kind of experiences, based on relationships that have been developed in terms of, we've had success, we use them in specific areas. So, for example, while DWK provides services in all the areas listed, the district has been particularly using them in the construction area. So, they have a strength in that. Their attorney has worked on it, knows our projects. We use their legal documents for it. The student services has been successful with the attorney teams at 3F. And then HR has had success now with Caltron. And so we have used those areas, and that's what came out in the interview and in the interview panel, is that, again, some of these firms have that, but it'll be based on what our needs are. And sometimes you may need another firm for a second opinion as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the clarification on that.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move approval of the 4 agreements for legal services during the 2021-22 fiscal year, as specified in the agenda.
Second.
All right.
Aye.
Just to carry on. Mukashi?
Aye.
Maher? Miller?
Aye.
And Larson, aye. And just a quick comment that I appreciated in the write-up about the keeping a better eye, the pandemic aside, this year was hard to keep track of everything, but to have come back to the board prior to exceeding these amounts if we need further contract work with them. 12.11, report, discussion, and possible action for the ratification of the Edgenuity contract for the new school year.
I'll go ahead and take this one. So this is going to be very brief. It is about the Edgenuity program. As you remember, we brought this on last year, and it's been pretty successful this year. And I'll turn it over to Director Pereira, who will give us some more information.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just have a few slides here. Oops, wrong button. Not what I wanted. All right. So good evening. You probably remember last year we came to you about adopting the learning management system from Edgenuity. We were primarily looking at this to be used in home and hospital instruction and enhancing our credit recovery programs, and then actually ended up utilizing it much more because of the pandemic. So just a little background, senior credit recovery courses, spring and summer credit recovery courses, home and hospital program, virtual academy, alternative school credit recovery, and then supplemental curriculum in 9-12, and then My Path for intervention. These are all the different places that we've utilized the learning management system and the courseware in Edgenuity this school year. In the summer of 2021, our courseware is used to complement our summer credit recovery program. Our teachers are back in the classrooms this summer, so we're really excited to have lots and lots of kids back on campus very safely. And at the same time, our teachers do need to differentiate for the students. So they utilize Edgenuity in conjunction with their direct instruction to differentiate and provide remediation for students. My Path is something that is being utilized with all students in grades K through 12 through a practice and extend program. And then throughout 21 and 22, courseware will still be used as a base program in the Pleasanton Virtual Academy, as well as will be available to all 6 through 12 teachers as supplemental tools. And then courseware will also be used in senior credit recovery and to supplement our home and hospital instruction when needed. The term of the contract is just 1 year, from June 1st of this year until May 31st of next year. And then the cost is $321,000. This is funded with the Learning Opportunity Grant, and this allows, again, the use of the platform in any 6 through 12 classroom. It also includes our webinars, tutoring, intervention, and extension options, and then unlimited training for our staff and customer service and support. With that, I will open it up for questions.
Great. Anyone, trustees have questions for Director Pereira?
Just have one quick question. Heather, thank you very much for providing the summary of information. Just for the benefit of the public, just any lessons learned from this year with implementation that was just amazing and successful? Just like one little highlight to share.
Yeah, I mean, we've really, it's been tough, obviously, in the pandemic. We are in the middle of utilizing it in our sort of originally intended way in summer school right now. So some good lessons being learned real time right now about using it in a classroom with students instead of when the students are all remote. You know, district-wide implementation has been sort of up to teachers in the individual classrooms, and the teachers who've embraced it really have embraced it. They've really utilized the tools to differentiate, and we've seen some pretty spectacular results with students who have like IEPs and 504s who need accommodations and modifications, because we can utilize the tools that are built in to be able to do that for them. We've used it as a base for Virtual Academy this year, which was previously independent study. And again, have seen that same pattern where students who, you know, they need reteaching or they need some of the tools that, you know, read text to them and things like that. We've been really successful with those things. So that's something that we're hoping to be able to utilize a little bit more district-wide now that we're back in person. Again, our intention was never that this would be a full remote or completely independent option. This is a tool for differentiation and to be able to reach learners who might be in different places. And so we're really excited to actually be able to use it that way with the kids now.
Great. I just wanted to applaud you and your efforts for the implementation. Any new endeavor, including a learning management system like Ingenuity, is a huge undertaking. So job well done. I think this last quick question, I was looking at the contract. Will all students have access to the licensor at the high schools and the secondary level for Ingenuity? Or what will that look like for this particular year moving forward? I know last year might have been a little different, but can you just give if you know offhand?
Yeah, no, I do. So we're using it in K through 12 right now through summer school. And then we opted not to use the K5 mode or the K5 package in fall. So it'll just be 612, and it'll be all 612 students will have access to the different options. And so the students that are actually using the practice and extend, the My Path now, they'll have access to that throughout the perpetuity of next school year. so yeah, 612, unlimited usage. Teachers can use it in a variety of different ways. Like I said, differentiation. We have had conversations with teachers about, if kids are out for long periods of time, how do we utilize these tools to make sure that we keep them engaged? So there's lots and lots of potential still. We didn't really get to reach all of our staff with, explaining the tools. But like I said, we have a number of staff members who really embraced it and who are sort of teacher trainers and are helping other staff members understand how to utilize it. And as we return to in-person learning, that's our focus, is how do we utilize this in a blended format to assist teachers and students when differentiation and reteaching are needed.
That was actually my question. What was the reasoning, or what is the reasoning for using it for just secondary and not for K through 5?
Yeah, so K through 5, the piece, the intervention piece that we had for K through 5 this past year, and to be clear, in the previous year, we didn't pay for the intervention pieces. That was a 1-year pilot that we were permitted to do. We actually decided that pre-pandemic, and then it worked out really well. But our K through 5 decided to go in a different direction for their intervention programs. And so we didn't want to bombard the children with too many different products. And so they're going to be using a couple of different intervention tools. And then 6 through 12, they have courseware, which is basically online courses. Or asynchronous courses. That's not something that's available for K through 5. Oh, okay. So that's really the only difference. We weren't really using anything beyond the intervention piece in K through 5. And we're continuing to use that through summer. And then we're going to transition to the other tools that K5 has decided to move forward with.
Great, thank you.
And Heather, just to expand on President Larson's question, Edgenuity is more robust for secondary anyway, correct?
Yeah,
in terms of the
courseware.
online
I mean,
platform.
the intervention piece is good. It's, K5 is really good as well. It's just we had more options there in K5, just that our staff was already reviewing. We integrated it because we could. It was part of the package last year. But moving forward, there was going to be additional fees. And so we felt, at this time, it wasn't really prudent to move forward with the K5 piece. But we are pleased with the 612. And not that we were displeased with the K5, it's just we have other tools. And so we are pleased with the 612. And there are more tools in 6 through 12 that are, beneficial for students at those grade levels.
Great, thank you.
I don't see any other questions. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this contract, 12.1, for the ratification of the Edgenuity contract for 2021-2022.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, just carry on.
Aye.
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 And I as well. And just to be clear, for people listening, it was item 12.11, but yes, the motion was to approve the Edgenuity contract for the Learning Management System 21-22. All right, 12.2, 12, see, we're both doing it. 12.2, report discussion of possible action on the ratification of agreements for the following projects: the field restoration project at Amador Valley High School, field restoration project at Foothill High School, and the painting project at Foothill High School. John?
Thank you. We're returning to the board for the ratification of the delegations of authority for the 3 of the 4 projects that were presented at last board meeting on May 20th. The projects are the field restoration at Amador Valley High School, and also the field restoration at Foothill High School, and the painting project at Foothill High School. The off-site improvement construction project at Foothill will return to the board for ratification at the next board meeting on 6/24. Bidding was very competitive and pricing came in underestimated budgets for these delegations of authority. First off, the field restoration projects. On May 26th this year, the district received 3 bids that were complete on both the high schools. The qualified low bidder for Amador was with Westside Landscaping and Concrete Incorporated for the amount of $119,819.11, very competitive. The qualified low bidder for Foothill was the same contractor, Westside Landscaping and Concrete, and that was at a little bit lower of an amount of $97,481.45. Both projects are within budget. The Foothill High School painting project, on May 27th, the district received 11 complete bids for this project. That's a lot. So we're seeing still very good bid turnout, and we're getting good bid results. The qualified low bidder for this project is Selway Construction. They've been doing business with us on various projects, and it is in the amount of $249,700. The bids ranged from the $249 up to over $600,000, $627. So the bulk of them were in the $400 range. We definitely got a good bid. We were projecting about $500,000 for this project. So recommended action is that the Board of Trustees approves the ratification of the 3 following projects. The field restoration project at Amador to Westside Landscape and Concrete for $119,819.11. And then also the field restoration project at Foothill to the same contractor, Westside Landscape, for the $97,000. And then the paving project at Foothill to Selway Construction for the $249,700. That is it, and I'm here for questions if you have any.
Nope, no questions.
It's ridiculously low amounts, I can't, considering how much it takes to redo a personal backyard. Holy mackerel. So I will move approval of the ratification of one-time delegation of authority for the oh no, we already did. Ratifying this one time, or the agreement. That's the way it's written. It's, anyway.
I'll
Of the
second.
3 agreements.
I'll second.
Mary Jo. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 12.12.
Yeah.
Sweet. Mary Jo.
Aye.
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 And I as well. That's unanimous. Thank you, John. That's awesome. I know you've got one more item, but first, we're going to hear from Tom on item 12.13, which is a super exciting public hearing report and discussion on the possible action resolution 2020-21.32 for the EPA.
Good evening again. On November 6, 2012, the voters approved Proposition 30, which added Article 13, Section 36 to the California Constitution effective November 7, 2012. This provision of Article 13, Section 36 creates the State General Fund and Education Protection Act, or EPA, to receive and disperse these revenues derived from incremental increases in taxes imposed. Pursuant to this Article 13, Section 36 of the California Constitution, school districts are authorized to determine how much money they receive from the EPA funds, which will be spent provided the governing board makes the spending determinations in an open session of a public meeting on an annual basis. It's worthy to note that EPA funds cannot be used for salaries or benefits of administrators or any administrative costs. In addition, school district must publish on its websites an annual accounting of how much money was received from the EPA funds and how these funds were expended. Finally, there's a requirement that the annual financial audit is included for verification of the EPA funds and were used as specified by Prop 30. Also noting that this is actually just part of our LCF calculation. It is not additional revenue that the district received, but again, it's part of our LCF calculation.
Are there questions from the board?
Say again.
have to make one editorial comment. I can't help it. So when Prop 30 was passed, we were all trying to keep ourselves afloat, and so yes, these are dollars that were voted on, and the incremental, all the things that you said are obviously true, Tom. But it is very frustrating to explain to people that this is not additional dollars. In fact, these are subtracted from, the amount that we are authorized later in the LCF, in the local control funding formula that came after Prop 30, basically. And yeah, it's just always been very frustrating to say, yes, we're going to publish this because that was part of the law that got voted on, but it's just part of what we get overall. So it's not additional dollars, and it's not enough to pay all of our teachers, but so we have to say, here are these dollars, and we're paying teachers and not administrators, but of course, anyway, which is one of those other fun things, all of you who are new to California and don't know very much about school finance, and we have one person on our board who is coming up to speed super fast. It's super awesome to watch. But yeah, another one of those quirks. So with that, we have a resolution 2020-2021.32. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of resolution 2020-2021.32.
I'll second it.
All right.
Aye.
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 And aye. 5-0, resolution passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom. Back to John to bring us home. 12.14, report discussion of possible action on the lease agreement for mobile modular for the temporary buildings at Leidixson for the modernization and rebuild project.
Okay, thank you. This is the next phase of construction, or because of the next phase of construction, we combined the administration building and the libraries into one phase. They used to be two. By doing that, it'll expedite the schedule by several months, and it'll save about $600,000 in overhead costs for the construction by the contractor. So working closely with the site administration, the logistics and the demolition of the construction of these buildings would necessitate the need for temporary buildings. These temporary buildings will serve the site as temporary administration space and a reading room space. The lease agreement costs will be offset by the savings from combining these phases for the two buildings. The lease agreements will be set for 36 months to lower the monthly rate by about 2/3, which, to give you an idea, for 36 months, each portable is about $1,000 per month. If we had the 1 year lease agreement, it would be triple that. It'd be about $3,000 per portable. That's just the way the industry is. So by us entering into longer term contracts with the knowledge that we're going to have a termination contract at approximately 8 to 12 months, then we pay what we would think is maybe $10,000. And so it would greatly save us. It's definitely the least expensive way to do this. The expected cost savings by doing this is about $64,000. So the Leidixson project continues to trend on budget, and the recommended action is administration recommends the Board of Trustees approve the 3 lease agreements with Mobile Modular. And I'll open it up for questions.
Questions? No?
Just a comment. Just want to thank you for such a dynamic presentation at this late hour, and your calming voice always keeps us engaged and super excited about the savings that this will provide the district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion?
Absolutely. I will make a motion to approve 12.14, report discussion, possible action, lease agreement.
I'll second. And aye.
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 And I think, we are already having a little senioritis. It's not quite the 24th. I can't predict what the 24th meeting is going to be like for this giddy right now. So that motion passed. And again, I also would like to say, I really appreciate, John, your work and Van Pelt's work to get creative and combine projects that make a lot of sense and save the district money. It's really, we're quite grateful for that. Board members, do we have any requests or any items you'd wish to report on. Mary Jo.
Yes, Kelly and I just completed our Masters in Governance class. Woohoo!
Now you can be president.
And then Steve and I are on City Liaison, and we had a really good discussion about our SROs, and there will be another meeting in July if anybody else wants to attend that. So.
Oh, great. Perfect. No requests? All right, so our next regularly scheduled, we have a special board meeting on Tuesday night, the 15th, where we will be working with our consultant, Nicole Anderson. And then our regular last scheduled board meeting for this school year is Thursday, June 24th. We are adjourning to closed session, but we will not have anything to report out of closed. So with that, we'll say good night. Thank you so much.